How are you feeling?
Well,
How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
To give you some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final scene of sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
And lastly, we ask that there be no recording or streaming of today's sessions from the floor. And any disruptive behavior in today's session will result in being removed from the call.
We please ask that there will be no recording or streaming of today's sessions from the floor. Any disruptive behavior today could result in being removed from the call. So, just be a nice person. So with the little housekeeping things out of the way, let's jump right in.
Again, we ask no recording or streaming of today's session.
We ask that there be no recording or streaming of today's session from the floor. Any disruptive behavior in today's session will result in being removed from the call.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah. Oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
Great
her.
Noticer sent $200.
Literally.
So
Not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is that
problem.
what you call reporters?
Go
and live
under, if
streaming?
you're going to do it,
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah,
But
please.
Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
I watch these streams, and I've been watching a self-professed fascist named Karlyn, who drinks and basically roasts these live streams. But weirdly, she has apparently embedded herself with Antifa before, and so it's such a funny stream because
So they tolerate her?
Oh no, not anymore. She no. She's like, I mean, I don't know if she's trolling or not, but on her stream, she's like, I am a fascist.
Right.
So she's proudly proclaiming she's a fascist. I don't know how much of that is trolling, how much of it is real, but conservatives who are drawn to her stream will say things like, these people are funded by George Soros. And it's the funniest thing because she gets so mad. And she's like, get off fucking Fox News. Stop watching that shit. It's all wrong. Do these people look funded? Do these people look like they have money? They're not funded. It's so, and I guess her bigger point is by saying these are funded agitators and not saying what they actually are, which is anti-capitalist revolutionaries, you dilute what's really happening. Because what's really happening, according to her, and I think a fair amount of people, is that the economy is so fucked. The middle class is diminishing so much. The cost of living is so high that this is the perfect soil you need if you wanted communism to grow anywhere.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht er was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her. Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeit einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist. Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn. Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeiter einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist. Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein. Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, und ein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeiter einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Ross with ya. Comrades, welcome to Socialism Saturday. Socialism Saturday is when we watch the real far left, the farthest of the far left, the most dystopian of the dystopian. As many people were informed earlier today when we were doing breaking news coverage about the left's response to Trump's war with Venezuela. On Socialism Saturday, we're not watching Democrats, we're not watching liberals, we're not watching progressives. Democrats, liberals, and progressives are not the same thing as socialists and communists in America. Socialists and communists in America hate Democrats. They hate liberals. They mildly tolerate progressives because progressives at least organize protests that they can latch themselves onto. But they hate liberals. We are not watching liberals today. No, liberals are not useful idiots of the far left. We are not watching anything related to the boring bullshit that you're going to see on Fox News or from any of your conservative commentators. We are watching socialists and communists that want to overthrow the government in America right now. And they absolutely have opinions about Venezuela. Now, we did some breaking news coverage earlier because there are protests breaking out all over the country in response to what Trump did in Venezuela. We spent the majority of our time watching a protest in Minneapolis where they were able to get at least a couple hundred people, if not more. The left was able to get a couple hundred people, maybe as much as 400 people, to come out in 17-degree weather in Minnesota within a couple hours of notice. That's pretty impressive, guys. That's pretty impressive. They were also protesting. I believe I heard they were protesting in Los Angeles. They were protesting out in front of the White House. The majority of the protests today seem to be organized by one of our favorites, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. But there were other socialist groups involved as well. There was the Answer Coalition, which of course is closely aligned with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. There was the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. There was Socialist Alternative. There were a couple other groups probably as well. You know, we're trying our best to read the signs to figure out who's actually there. But they're kind of like the usual suspects of far left activism that are literally able to send out a message in their signal group to say, hey, 5051 was there. Yeah, they're more of a progressive group, but 5051 was definitely there. Thank you for reminding me, Hans. Which is funny because the data Republican account, who's supposed to be the preeminent data analyst on the conservative right, hasn't yet figured out that 5051 was there. You know, P.S. Yup, there's a protest in Times Square. PSL, People's Forum, all of those groups, by the way, all of the groups that you just named, PSL, People's Forum, Code Pink, Answer Coalition, Breakthrough News, which is a very large far-left YouTube channel, all of those groups are funded by the same thing. All of those groups are basically the same people that are working together. That's kind of like one little contingent on the far left where basically they're all funded by the same people. And yes, these are the groups that are actually funded by the CCP. There are no other groups on the far left that are actually funded by the CCP except for these specific groups. Again, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the People's Forum, Code Pink, Answer Coalition, Breakthrough News. They're all the same people. They're just different groups created by the same people. They all work together. They all coordinate. All their funding comes from the same place. These groups are kind of a weird little cult on the left. It's like most far left groups actually denounce these groups and they don't like them. But the reality is that the PSL, especially the Party for Socialism and Liberation, is extremely organized nationally. The PSL does protests all the time. They have the PSL has the nice printed signs. They almost always say the Party for Socialism and Liberation at the bottom, so you know who they are. And so, yeah, the kind of usual suspects were able to spin up a whole bunch of people on a dime and get them out there. We watched some of that coverage earlier today. No, I mean, Code Pink, no. They're not a queer Marxist group. No. Code Pink is not queer Marxist at all. Code Pink are more like, I don't even really think that Code Pink are revolutionary communists, if I'm being honest. Code Pink are more like progressives / maybe tiptoeing into democratic socialists. But Code Pink aren't really, the right likes to like the reason that people on the right know about Code Pink is they create disruptions in Congress, and then people on the right come out and denounce them and call them communists and blah 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 blah, like the usual kind of like conservative bullshit narrative. But the reality is that when you look at when you look at Code Pink in the context of like the larger left, they're not really that leftist. They're absolutely not queer Marxists. Yeah, Code Pink are really more anti-war, anti-imperialism than anything. And so Code Pink is one of the groups I'm honestly least worried about on the left because, you know, I don't actually think they're as organized as people think that they are, but they are connected to people who are organized. But like, they basically, the most effective thing that the Code Pink people do are like the disruptions in Congress, but they don't really do much beyond that, to be honest. They're not involved in any of the major far left like conferences or, you know, kind of like working groups or things like that. So it's just something, it's an organization conservatives know the name of because their politicians and their influencers talk about it, but that doesn't mean it's actually important in the greater like far left ecosystem. But I do understand why you asked the question. I appreciate that. So we were watching this coverage earlier today about some of the protests that were breaking out in regards to the Venezuela stuff. And by the way, guys, my opinion on the Venezuela stuff, and let me put the chat on the screen so you guys can see what you're sending in. There you go. There you go. Boom. My opinion on the Venezuela stuff is essentially the following. I don't actually care. I don't care. I don't think Nicolas Maduro is a good person. I'm not upset that he got arrested. I'm not upset that he is probably going to end up getting murdered in prison. I'm not upset about any of that. I actually don't care. I am vehemently anti-war. I do not like these preemptive attacks. I do not like that. I think that this is obviously, excuse me. I do not like that. I think that Trump obviously did this to support Israel. Like this is you know why I don't care? This is clearly about Israel and it's kind of just like duh. Like duh. Another war on behalf of Israel. And people can talk about Trump is getting the communists out all he wants, but the fact of the matter is Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about communism. Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about saving the world from communism. Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about saving the United States from communism. Do you know how I know that? Because I know more about the far left in America than any person in the Trump administration right now, and I would bet literally everything I own on that. I would bet everything I own on the fact that I know more just off the top of my head about what the far left is doing, how the far left is organizing, who the major far left groups are, all this stuff. I would bet all the money in my bank account and every asset I have and my house and my dog and my husband and like literally everything on the fact that I know more about the far left than the White House does. And that's how I know that Trump doesn't give a flying fuck about communism, although, because even though I do think it is rather, you know, kind of impressive for me to know that much about the far left, it really shouldn't be that way. I should not know more than the FBI does. My audience should not know more than the FBI does. Like, that shouldn't actually be the case in any way. But here we are. And the reason that I know this is not about fighting communism is that Trump hasn't done fucking anything to fight communism in the United States. There have been no mass arrests of Antifa. I could literally give the Trump administration a list right now and say, here are 100 Antifa activists by name, where they work, where they live, what organizations they work for. I could literally hand the Trump administration that list right now, and they wouldn't give a flying F and nothing would happen, and they wouldn't actually do anything. So don't tell me this is about saving the world from communism. I don't think it is. Again, I'm not going to be an apologist for Nicolas Maduro. I don't think he's a good person. I quite frankly don't really care that Trump, arrested him. I truly don't care. But don't tell me that Trump is so bent on fighting communism when he's doing it in Venezuela and not in the United States, where he happens to be the president of. Call me crazy. I don't know. So for my part, I'm just going to keep covering the far left and showing you guys what the far left really says and showing you what they really do. And you guys can judge for yourself what you think. And you guys can judge for yourself if the administration is hinged into reality. And you guys can judge for yourself about, are you being told the truth about socialists and communists in the United States? Or are you being fed a mound of bullshit by right-wing influencers who make a lot of money making shit up on the internet? I don't know. It's up to you. It's up to you. I mean, I don't listen. I allow these things to manifest themselves. I don't shill myself out for other shows. If you guys want me to go on shows, let those shows know to contact me, because I'm not doing a fucking PR speaking tour here. If people want to talk to me, they can reach out to me and talk to me. But I have always found it to go horribly wrong. Anytime I have been pitched for something and I go on and the people I'm talking to don't know what I do and they don't really know what I'm about, and they don't like it goes horribly wrong every time. So I'm not going to pitch myself out to be on other shows. I'm not going to say, Harrison, can you put in a good word for me? Like, I'm not going to do any of that. Like, I first of all, it feels smarmy. I don't want to. Like, I just don't want to. Secondly, I find these conversations go much better when they come to me and they're actually interested in my work. So I'm just going to do my thing on the internet, and I'm very, very lucky and very, very blessed that I have a wonderful community of people that supports the work I'm doing. In fact, can we talk about where are my class dues? No one has sent in a super chat yet on Socialism Saturday. Guys, pay up. $5, $10. Come on, I'm about to give you a class on socialism. I'm about to give you a class on what the far left really believes on one of the most important contemporary topics that it's going to be talked about this week anyway. We'll move on to something else next week, but probably this week, Venezuela is going to be a really important topic. And I'm about to lay out for you a master class about what the far left actually believes when it comes to Venezuela. So if you want to throw in a super chat to say thank you for my time, send it a $5 super chat, $10 super chat, $20 super chat, $100 super chat. If you want to send me $500, that'd be pretty rad. But I only do this because you guys allow me to do it. I'm completely 100% funded by people like you. Thank you, H. Brown, for the $5 class dues. I do appreciate that. And if you guys don't fund my work, it doesn't happen. And this is why I get to tell you the truth and say whatever I think. Thank you, Suri. I do appreciate that. Anyway, another way you can support the work I'm doing is by heading over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, where if you missed my interview with Harrison Smith on InfoWars that happened last year, I can't believe it's last year now, but it is last year. I definitely recommend, if you guys, this is one of the best interviews I've ever had. If you guys missed this interview, I need to make clips of it. I need to make so many clips. This is one of the best interviews about the left that I've ever had. You want to know why? Because Harrison is a man of integrity. Harrison actually gives a fuck. And most importantly, Harrison asked the right questions. I was so excited by some of the questions I got to answer on that show. And so if you guys haven't seen it, it is on the front page of the Substack right now. But also, if you want to support the work I'm doing over there for $8 a month, $80 a year, that is the very, very best place to do it. Let's go through some of these amazing super chats. Look at all these class dues coming in. I love it when the super chats come in early. I'm usually in a much better mood when people pay up at the beginning of the stream. I really do appreciate it. Cynthia, our goddess, our queen, our money fairy, Cynthia, thank you for the ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Cynthia says, Dr. K is teaching the truth and outing the tards. I love it. And I'm here for it. I appreciate it, Cynthia. Thank you. Prita, thank you. I can't do crap about Venezuela or Maduro. I'm sticking to learning from Karlyn about what's coming. At least it helps me identify Antifa and far leftists in my area so I can stay safe. Yeah, that's a really good point, Prita. That's a really good point. That's part of why we do what we do. I appreciate it. We got glow in the dark class dues. Thank you. The fascist jewelry fund. You know what? I was just messing around on a shopping app, and they served me an Orwell Eye sparkle purse. It's like a beautiful little purse. It's like a beautiful little wallet on chain, and it's sparkly and it has an Orwell Eye on it. And I was like, "Oh, shopping app, you know me so well. It's like, you know me so well. Just take my money. Take my money, shopping app. That's not even hard. We got Cheek Butt in here with the super chat. I appreciate it. We got Malcolm. Hey, Malcolm. I appreciate you very much. The comrade commitment. Appreciate it. We got Brown Barbaloo. Class dues for earlier and right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Brown Barbaloo. We got Illustration Station in with the 20. Good to see you, Illustration Station. Welcome. Beth, you are also the queen of the chat. You and Cynthia can be co-queen of the chat, Beth. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing really, really well. Thanks for stopping by. We got Mustard Seed in there. Thank you for your coverage earlier today. And now you are a jump. Hey, I try. You know, when I'm not yelling at people and calling them retarded on the internet, I can be okay. I can be okay. Rumble is now slacking. Rumble is now letting me down in the super chat department. That's okay. You guys will catch up. All right. Let me show you. Oh, actually, you know what? No, I didn't. But I did. I did not get more weed. Sadly, I did not. But I did want to say, Seven Lily sent this in earlier. Some guy just yelled, "Weed is bad for your memory" to me. I'm not even smoking. I'm like, I saw that on my way in. I was like, I disagree. I have a fucking Rolodex of far left information in my head. I can spit out any far left factoid at any moment. I am a savant with this bullshit, and weed is probably why. And like, you know, what's even really wrong with that is what I'm saying. What's even wrong with that? This show sponsored by Karlyn's ability to get high to deal with the anxiety and depression of it all. Yep. Basically true. Basically true, but that's okay. You know why? Because I'm a high-functioning stoner, so you guys don't have anything to worry about. Anyway, into more important details about what we're going to be doing. So do you guys remember earlier today, we were watching the protest coverage. Hey, thanks, JJC. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Starbright in with the 20. Happy New Year, Karlyn. Looking forward to 2026. Me too, Starbright. I appreciate it. Yeah, exactly. It does. It does. It saves. It saves. It's better than alcohol. Exactly. Better than alcohol. Yep. When I get high, things actually get better. I am not only serving myself, I am serving all of you better. And I'm usually nicer. Usually a lot nicer. Anyway, do you guys remember how in the last stream we were watching these protests that happened today, and we were like, dang, the left printed signs about Venezuela pretty quickly. The left printed all these signs about Venezuela within a couple hours. How did the left do that? How did the left have all these signs for these protests? Do you guys remember we were talking about that like a couple hours ago? Hey, Ben, the language in learning was rarely spoken where I'm at and was easily ignored. Now it's getting worse, and I have to know more to fight back. Hey, Ben, I appreciate that. I will teach you everything you need to know, bro. Hang out, pull up a chair. We appreciate it. If you're new and you want to learn the language, head over to the Substack. I've got a couple of resources for you. Just click on the new to my work section. It's got a big picture of me on it. And when you scroll down, you're going to find this class, the re-education class and anti-communist introduction to the far left. You can also find this on my YouTube and Rumble channels. You can find it on my Twitter account, but this is the place where it's probably easiest to find it. This is a 90-minute crash course in the language. So if you're new to my work, you're new to learning the language of the left, watch this. I promise you, it will get so much clearer. Okay, just watch that. And then if you want to do the 4-hour masterclass, you can speak that. That goes far more in depth into everything. Both of these trainings use clips from real far left trainings. So you're not hearing it from me. I'm just going to show you what the left is saying in clip form so we can walk through it really quickly. But you hear everything from the left, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can hear directly from them. That is available on my Substack in the new to my work section, or if you go to the main page, Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, it should be up here in the corner. New to my work, start here. Hey, thanks, Paultron. Really do appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, we mentioned earlier, isn't it crazy that the left had all these printed signs about Venezuela? And what I said is they probably already had them printed prior to this because Venezuela is something they do talk about on the left. And they were anticipating Trump doing something. So they probably just anticipated that this was going to happen eventually, and they already had the signs ready to go. Well, after I got off the stream earlier, I went over to Freedom Road Socialist Organization's YouTube channel. Freedom Road Socialist Organization was one of the groups that we were watching today. And guess what? Guess what? 4 weeks ago, live on their channel, no war against Venezuela. So the left, at least one of the organizations that we saw today in the protests, they did a presentation a month ago about no war with Venezuela, which means they were already anticipating that this was going to happen. So you want to know why they all had Venezuela signs ready to go? It's not that they have a print shop in their backyard and they just banged them out this morning. They already had them ready to go. They've been anticipating that Trump was going to do this at least a month ahead of time in regards to the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, but honestly, probably much longer than that. So I thought that we could listen to this presentation and we could talk about it. And so this is going to be about an hour and a half long, and it was a presentation given by the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, No War with Venezuela. This presentation was given 1 month ago. Over the past few months, the Trump administration has taken increasingly aggressive act against Venezuela. Trump has used missile strikes to murder dozens in international waters, has moved U.S. ships and troops into the Caribbean, and kept up a constant stream of inflammatory rhetoric against Venezuela. The Venezuelan people are united against these threats, and a growing movement in the U.S. has taken to the streets to say, hands off Venezuela. Joining leading anti-war activists and FRSO leaders for an online event on building the movement against war in Venezuela. So, how appropriate. We can go to 4 weeks ago and find out, here's what the left was saying, here's what they were doing, here are their talking points, here's what they were planning on doing when Trump goes to war with Venezuela, and all that stuff. And so that's what we're going to do. And so we're going to hear directly from the horse's mouth. Thank you so much for the super sticker. I really do appreciate it. Now, what I want people to keep in mind as we go through this presentation, and this is going to be hard for some people to wrap their heads around, and I understand this, but you have to trust me on this. The truth does not matter. What do I mean by that? The truth does not matter. It means that the left doesn't care about facts. The left, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. Hang on, Chris just sent this in. The left doesn't care about facts. The left cares about perception. Look at this. No war on Venezuela. U.S. out of Latin America. Protest in March. Sunday, November 16th. This is from the DSA. This is from a DSA group, okay? So they were already really clued in on all this Venezuela stuff. You cannot use facts to debunk the left because the left doesn't care what you say the facts are. The left, in every single thing they do, is building a narrative and building a perception that positions them well in their little war to overthrow capitalism, because the goal is always and forever to overthrow capitalism. Is someone having a hissy fit in the chat? Nope, not yet. So coming in here and saying, doesn't the left know that Maduro was a communist? They don't give a fuck. They're communists. They support communists. You guys coming in here and going, don't they know that people of Venezuela are celebrating in the streets? No, the left is going to dispute that. And by the way, Venezuela is still filled with communists. I hope everyone understands this. Not everyone in Venezuela denounced Nicolas Maduro. Are there people in Venezuela who are very happy right now? Oh yeah, of course. But do you really think that every single person in the country was opposed to Nicolas Maduro? Do you really think that every single person in the country in Venezuela is happy now that Trump has come out and said, we're going to be running the country for a little while? Do you guys really think that makes the majority of people in Venezuela happy? I don't. I don't think the majority of people in Venezuela are happy. Dang. Why don't I think the majority of people in Venezuela are happy? Because if the majority of people in Venezuela were dissatisfied, they would have overthrown Maduro's ass a long time ago. If the majority of people in Venezuela were actually like completely opposed to what was going on, they would have overthrown their leader a long time ago. Because guys, it does not take that many people percentage-wise in the country to start a revolution. It really doesn't. So if you're talking like over 50% of the country is pissed off with the leadership, like really pissed off, there's going to be a revolution in that country. The reality of the matter is that most of the people in Venezuela were going along with it. And that is why it was allowed to happen. And you will not convince me otherwise. Because again, once you have a majority of the populace turning against you, revolution is inevitable in some way, shape, or form. And just because Maduro is a bad person, again, I don't really particularly care if Maduro gets assassinated in captivity. I don't give a fuck. I don't think he's a good person. I'm not trying to stand for him. I'm just trying to explain to you that they would have assassinated him. They would have staged a coup. They would have done something if the majority of people in that country were against what he was doing, and that is just reality. We can look at it and say Venezuela is a communist shithole. Yes, Venezuela is a communist shithole, but it's what a lot of people wanted, and that's just reality. And so what I want people to understand is Trump isn't going to waltz into Venezuela to loving open arms from everyone. There are going to be people who are happy. Yes, sure, of course. But do you guys think it's going to be easy for the United States to quote unquote run things in a communist country? I don't. I think this is a giant fuck off shit show with just waiting to happen. And what you got to understand is there are people in Venezuela who liked the leadership in place. And socialists and communists are going to spin this in a very specific way in order to push socialism and communism. And saying to them, do you know that people are celebrating? They don't give a fuck, okay? What we do here on this channel is not about convincing the left of anything. It is not about debunking the left. It is not about like showing them facts and the diction. It's not about any of that. What we do on this channel is listen to what the left is saying. We try to understand their perspective. We try to understand their psychology and their language. We listen to the propaganda and the talking points that are going out to leftist groups because the left is going to behave based on what they believe. People don't act based on what you believe the truth is. People act based on what they believe the truth is. So while I understand and am aware that there's probably going to be a fair amount of debunking tonight, because you guys just can't help yourself. You really just can't sometimes. I want to remind you that debunking the left isn't going to change a fucking thing. The people in the video can't hear you. This was filmed a month ago. You are not convincing anyone because we're not communists. We're not socialists. There's no one in the chat that you need to convince. Debunking is a colossal waste of energy. It fixes nothing. It accomplishes nothing. It just makes you feel morally superior and like you can disengage with it. So if you're going to be here, I'm going to beg and plead with you to resist the urge to debunk the presentation. This is about listening to people. This is about understanding other people's perspective. This is about putting ourselves in the shoes of the enemy so that we can understand what they're going to do next. Because if you don't understand the true perspective of your enemy, there is nothing that you can do to defeat them. People ask me all the time, Karlyn, what can we do to defeat the left? What can we do to defeat the left? Like literally sit down, shut the fuck up, and listen. You need to listen. You need to learn their language. You need to learn their organizing techniques. You need to learn what they actually believe, not what your bullshit conservative con artist influencers say they believe, because the bullshit conservative con artist influencers don't actually listen to the left. That's what you need to do. No, Karlyn, what do we really do after we learn? No, there is no after you learn. You sit down, you shut the fuck up, you listen to what the left is saying, you ask questions in the chat if you have them, and if you are unwilling to do those things, there is nothing that you can do that's going to be productive because you do not understand your enemy. I'm not trying to be mean to you. I am telling you like it is. I've been doing this a long ass time, and I have seen over and over and over again the people who insist on running their mouths instead of shutting the fuck up, listening and learning, they never are hinged into reality with what's going on. Never. So, we're going to be watching this video today, guys. I do want everyone to pay attention to this short rules video, which will emphasize the no debunking thing, before we get started. And then we will get this party started. Okay, please pay attention to this rules video, please and thank you. All right, for anyone that's new, we have some rules for Socialism Saturday. Let me go over them real quick. Socialism Saturday is a research group and a class. We do take this seriously. You're allowed to have fun. You're allowed to have a drink or two. You're allowed to kind of kick back and joke in the chat. However, I need everyone to understand that when we are researching the radical revolutionary left, we do take this seriously. And so if you're shitposting in my chat, I'm going to tell you to stop. If you are posting off topic in the chat, I'm going to ask you to stop at some point because it's going to be distracting to what we're doing. I need you to think of yourself as in a classroom. And I'm not talking about an online classroom. I'm talking about a real life classroom, okay? When you walk into a real life classroom, I am the teacher, you are the students. You are sitting in the desk, I am sitting in the front of the classroom. I'm standing there teaching you what is going on. If you were in a real life classroom, you wouldn't walk in, start throwing shit at the wall, yelling, saying, I disagree with you because my best friend said something different. That's not allowed. I don't care about your feelings. I'm not going to coddle your opinion. And that's going to be the way it is. And if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. But if you are in my classroom, you will respect my rules and you will listen to me. And if you do not do that, then you will be removed. And how you feel about being removed makes no difference to me at all. The expectation is if you're going to be here and you're going to be watching socialism with us and you're going to be participating in the chat, you are doing it because you are serious about learning this topic and understanding this topic. The minute that I think that you're just fucking around or you're trolling or something like that, you're going to get put in a timeout or permanently banned, and that's just going to be the way it is. Rule number 2, don't be a dick. Do not insult me. Do not insult other people in the chat. I can do whatever I want because I am the queen fascist bitch of my YouTube channel. So I can say and do whatever I want. But if you don't insult me and you don't insult other people in the chat, we're not going to have a problem. So be an adult, rein that shit in. Number 3, no whining. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care if you feel personally attacked. It makes no difference to me at all. And I promise you, I care about your feelings a little bit more than the left does. So if you can't handle me, you can't handle the left. If you start whining and complaining because you don't like the rules or you think you're being treated unfairly, you can just leave, bro. There's the door. You don't have to be here. Number 4, listen. Our job here and why we do Socialism Saturday is to listen to what the left is saying, to listen to what real leftists are doing in the real world. This is not to support your confirmation bias. This is not to support any conservative bullshit narrative that you may have heard on Glenn Beck that one time. This is not to be what you want it to be. This is to engage with reality. We need to listen, we need to actively listen, and we need to understand the left better than they understand themselves. That is the purpose of this exercise, okay? As part of that, I do ask that people refrain from debunking. You do not have a single debunk in your arsenal about the left is stupid because of reasons X, Y, B, and Z, or the left is her hypocrites for reasons X, Y, B, and Z. You don't have a single debunk that we haven't heard before, okay? And every time you put energy into debunking, that is energy that you're not putting into listening. So if I see you debunking, I'm going to tell you to stop because you need to put that energy into listening instead. Lastly, break the rules of my chat or disrespect me in any way, and I'll just kick you out, and that's the way it is. All right, one in the chat, if you agree to the rules of the channel, don't be a dick, no whining, no debunking, listen, and if you break any of my rules, I can do whatever I want because you're in my house, and I can just ban you if I want. One in the chat, if you agree with the rules, bot, you don't count. I want to address this question before we get into it, and then I think you must be new here, and that's okay. Guys, listen, when new people show up, we're going to have to teach them, no, there is absolutely no proof at all in any way that George Soros funds Antifa. That is what we call a conservative bullshit narrative. It's not real. And so no, I'm very sorry you were lied to about that, and you should stop listening to whoever lied to you. Antifa is funded by mutual aid. That's small cash donations that they give to each other. There is no big Soros funding for Antifa. Soros funds progressive and liberal and Democrat groups, not Antifa, and those are two very, very different things. But I do appreciate you asking the question so nicely. Guys, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. If you have a question about something or you're not sure, you don't go, Soros funds Antifa, Karlyn. You're so stupid for saying otherwise. You ask a question, and then we're able to have an answer. Okay? So that's okay. If you're new here, that's totally, totally fine, and we appreciate new people asking good questions. Little Miss, here's some support for your pain over all these years. I have to admit, I pray more will actually listen and learn because it is really important. Well, you know what? The people who are supposed to will listen. The people who are not supposed to will not. I do appreciate that super chat, little miss. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Guys, I want to try to get a sense of the makeup of the audience before we get into the presentation today, and then I promise you we're going to watch it. I want you to do one in the chat if you are new, and this is like your first or second Socialism Saturday. I want you to do 2 in the chat if you've been watching Socialism Saturday for like maybe 3 or 4 months, like 2 to 4 months, something like that. I want you to do a 3 in the chat if you are a Socialism Saturday veteran. And by the way, it's totally fine to be new, but I need to know what the makeup of the chat is so I know how to teach, essentially. Got some 1s. Welcome to all the newbies who are here for the first or second time. Appreciate you guys. Happy New Year. Good way to start off the new year with a Socialism Saturday. We got a bunch of 2s and we've even got a bunch of 3s. Okay, we got a good group here. We're going to get started. So guys, we are listening to a leftist presentation from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. They were one of the organizations that were involved in the Venezuela protests earlier today in response to what the Trump administration is doing. And this is a presentation they did about a month ago because they were anticipating that this was going to happen. So we're going to listen and learn, what does the left actually believe about Venezuela? If you have questions, please make sure to ask. Let's get this party started.
All right. I think it's time to go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for being on tonight's call. My name is Chris Licarpio. We are the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, and we are going to talk tonight about why we are saying no to war on Venezuela, why we are saying yes to the national liberation struggle and revolutionary movement in Venezuela, and what we're going to do about it. We're going to hear from some very exciting speakers tonight. We're going to hear from Meredith Abbey from the Anti-War Action Network. We're going to hear from Carlos Montes from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization's Central Committee, Tom Burke, the organizational secretary of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, and Jim Byrne from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization in Tucson, Arizona. So speakers will present, but then we'll also, like we have for these calls, for people who get on them every quarter, we'll have our question and answer. So people can contribute questions to ask our panelists. The way that people can do that tonight, by the way, is if you'll see that you're not going to be able to write in the big chat, but if you hit new chat next to everyone, kind of on the right-hand side, you can send your question to a moderator. Please send your questions to me and to Andy. So that's how we'll do it tonight, okay? So for the question and answer, and you can send them throughout the presentation, we'll make sure that our speakers get to them before the night ends. So thanks everyone for being on our call. I think we'll go ahead and officially, I'll say a few words before we open it up to our speakers. So tonight we're gonna have a very important discussion and hear about the steady drumbeat that the U.S. has been beating towards war with Venezuela, lasting in the short term 22 weeks, but in a lot of ways much longer than that, right? So killings of the fishermen and sailors in boats, but also in the background sanctions, starvation. Over 83 people at least have been killed in the waters of the Caribbean and the Pacific as part of the U.S.'s agenda towards accelerating a war with Venezuela. Trump has made references to the Monroe Doctrine, right? Taking back.
So I want you guys to really listen to what they're saying. And Kevin, as a reminder, Kevin, the people in the video can't hear you. They can't hear you, Kevin. but talking to them in the chat like they can hear you is not a good use of energy. Thanks, two ladies. Please, everyone, mount our like button and share this on X and other platforms. I think that's what you meant, two ladies. I appreciate that. Guys, as a reminder, the left is telling us their talking points. They're telling us what their propaganda is going to say. They are telling us what leftist groups are going to believe. Whether or not it's true doesn't matter. What matters is this is what they believe. What they believe is Trump was attacking these boats and killing people in these boats in order to accelerate a war with Venezuela in order to steal the oil. This is what they believe. They believe Trump wanted the oil in Venezuela. He deliberately provoked all of these attacks in order to accelerate to get a war with Venezuela over oil.
The Panama Canal, the new Department of War's budget proposal saying that the Western Hemisphere is a top priority. For them, Venezuela is the tip of the spear. We're seeing war crimes, shooting down not only those boats, but even doing the so-called secondary double tap strike of survivors clinging to the wreckage of their ship. War crimes so deplorable that even Pete Hegseth and White House Press Secretary Carolyn Levitt want to pass the buck and blame the admirals instead. So why is the U.S. acting this way? It's because Venezuela refuses to stand down. They insist on their right to wage a revolutionary national liberation struggle and to have what the rightfully elected president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, calls peace with dignity. And we as revolutionaries in the U.S. have a duty to uphold their right to that sovereignty and to have their national liberation struggle to be free and to determine their own destiny. So we're going to hear about that tonight, and I'm excited to pass it on just in a moment to our...
Hey, guys, if you keep debunking them in the chat, I'm going to tell the chat to start shaming you aggressively. I want the chat to start shaming people aggressively every time they debunk them instead of listening to what they're saying and asking questions. This is not productive. This is not going to change anything. They can't fucking hear you. This makes no difference. From now on, we're going to shame your asses until you stop debunking.
Speakers. We're going to talk about what we're going to do about it and why the wars of Trump and the billionaires and the imperialists hold down the people of the U.S. as well as terrorize the peoples of the world. And as part of our strategy for a united front against imperialism, we're going to take the whole beast down. So first, for the night, I'm going to pass it to Meredith Abbey from the Anti-War Action Network to go ahead and start us off. Take it away, Meredith.
Thank you, Chrisley. The U.S. empire has been trying to overthrow the government of Venezuela since Chavez was elected and took office in 1999. So for 25 years now, Presidents Chavez and Maduro have faced coups, infrastructure sabotage, election interference, computer hacking, system hacking, mercenary invasions, drone attacks, and painful economic sanctions. And despite all of this, from the Clinton administration to the second Trump administration, the Venezuelan people have been incredibly strong. They have rebuilt their economy. They have re-elected candidates time and time again that the U.S. has told them, don't vote for them. Don't vote for them. And they now still continue to control their own oil that the U.S. wants so desperately and is basically like drooling after.
The
Democrats, the Republicans, and the ruling class have been frustrated and angry that their very cruel sanctions have not caused the regime change that they so desperately desire.
Is that okay?
And now the U.S. is turning to overt war in order to get what they want. President Trump says he wants to replace President Maduro. To do this, Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio need to paint Venezuela's leadership as worthy of overturning. So now they're claiming that there's this vast conspiracy of political and military leaders that are involved in drug trafficking. However, the United Nations reports that drug crops are not grown in Venezuela. Very little is transported. Like, there's actually not evidence that this is true. There's not evidence that Venezuela is a threat to the United States. But what we're seeing is that there's just this repetition of like, if we just say it enough times, it'll be true. And it kind of reminds me of like Iraq and weapons of mass destruction.
Yep.
It's like, we're just going to keep saying it so often. It's just going to get repeated in the news so often that like, obviously it must be true. And so there's this propaganda campaign that's happening on the part of the Trump administration. And we, as the anti-war movement and as people of conscience, we have an important role to combat this propaganda campaign, because we have to be like, actually, that's not true. What Trump and Rubio want is they want their own lackeys in power. But the new lackeys that they want will only have one job, and that will be serving the bidding of oil companies and the United States and Wall Street investors. But the reality is, Wall Street, Venezuelans, not Wall Street, should get to pick their own leaders. And it doesn't matter that it doesn't matter what Trump feels about their choices. Okay. Most recently, Trump announced a no-fly zone. And I think it's really important that we understand that this is an escalation. No-fly zone sounds like really pretty and nonviolent. And I just think it's super important for you to understand that this is an escalation. The U.S. used a no-fly zone during its war in Iraq. And what happened is that somebody has to enforce a no-fly zone. That means that any planes that fly in a no-fly zone are shot down by the U.S. military. Like, that's pretty violent. And so what it means is that like Venezuela would lose control of its own airspace. Okay. And it would mean that a country that is already under economic siege would now lose the ability for anyone else to be able to fly in to provide relief or to visit it or to document any sort of human rights abuses that are happening because of, you know, the conditions that the U.S. is creating. And so I think that's important. And so the anti-war movement needs to see and treat Trump's no-fly zone as an act of war. And so we need to talk to people about this as an escalation, not as, you know, sort of like, you know, just sort of another thing. Like, I think it's important to understand that, like, this terminology doesn't sound as threatening as it actually is. The U.S. Navy does not have the right to be judge, jury, and executioner of boats in the Caribbean. These are war crimes, and Hegseth should be like arrested and prosecuted for these. And I actually think it's incredibly good. I've been actually excited this week listening to mainstream news coverage. Like, normally I listen to mainstream news coverage and I'm really frustrated and I just want to like throw my car radio.
We got a good question here. Actually, this is a great question. Do American leftists vary on whether or not they view Venezuela as a socialist state? Are there some that view it as a military dictatorship? I don't know that any American leftist that I've ever heard views Venezuela as a military dictatorship. That's not to say there might be some, but I have never heard the left talking about it as a military dictatorship. Whether or not they view it as a socialist state, though, is an interesting question. I'm honestly not sure about the answer. I think yes. I think that they generally do speak. They generally speaking have positive views of Venezuela. Generally speaking, they have positive views of Nicolas Maduro, which to me tells me they believe it's like a version of like socialism that they would support. But honestly, we haven't watched a ton of the Venezuela content. The only reason I know about this is that tangentially hearing it, like in relation to Palestine or other stuff that's going on, but maybe we'll find out more information in this presentation. But we've got a conservative retard over on Rumble. Okay, bye, bro, bye. None of that retarded shit. None of that conservative retarded shit on Rumble. No. But I think it's a good question, and let's listen in for this presentation because we might get the answer to it. And fair point.
Pull it out and throw it out the window. But like, they've used words like war crimes on the news media. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are actually saying things that make sense. And they're like saying that there were probably war crimes that were committed. Some people have said there were war crimes that were committed.
Hey, thanks to ladies. Thank you. I'm curious, Karlyn. Several years back, Russia sent 3,000 plus troops there and loads of military supplies. I'm wondering how this will all play out. Yeah, I don't know, two ladies. I don't know. International affairs is not my strong suit, but this is a great freeze frame, by the way. International affairs is like not my strong suit at all. So I really don't know, but I'll take your word for it. I appreciate the super chat.
Some people have been saying there's actually a cover up that's happening. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's actually sound bites that are getting through that make sense. And so that has been really exciting, that there's actually a conversation happening about the right things in Congress. Who knew? And so I think that it's pretty exciting that like there's actually a conversation happening about the fact that this is a war crime. And so that means that like we have an opportunity here, right? The ruling class in Congress is actually split and they're actually debating this issue amongst themselves. And so we have an opportunity to sort of move our agenda forward, and we've got to take advantage of that. CBS News reported that a majority of both Democrats and Republicans don't feel like Trump has actually explained the reasoning to justify a war with Venezuela. We need to counter his lack of a message with our message. We need to provide a message of opposition. In a poll from The Economist, which is a horrible news source and like super conservative, I never agree with anything I read in there. But in The Economist, which is a piece of trash, it says only 45% of Americans support overthrowing Maduro. Okay. So like they can't even come up with numbers higher than 45%. So this is a great place to build on. And the others,
what? I mean, I want everyone to hear that. Okay. According to The Economist, and we can bicker about whether the Economist is an accurate source of information, but The Economist is pretty fucking boring. Has anyone actually ever read The Economist? I had to read The Economist in college because I took a class that required me to read it. And it's like the most boring publication of all time. It's not sensationalized. It's not like, it certainly has its perspective, but like, it's boring, okay? So when things are boring, I tend to actually believe when their numbers are accurate because it's fucking boring. And like, if it's boring, they're going to be wonky about data and that sort of stuff, like whatever. Anyway, The Economist is saying that only 45% of Americans support overthrowing Maduro. I want everyone to and listen, again, I truly don't care if Maduro gets taken out of office. I truly don't care if we steal all the oil in Venezuela and we use it to fund, like, honestly, what I would like Trump to do is to just take the Venezuelan oil and bring it back to the United States. All of our gas prices would go down. All of our heating costs would go down. It would be fucking awesome. Just take the oil and fucking leave. They can fix it themselves. I truly don't give a fuck. I mean, that might sound like, you know, cruel or whatever, but I don't care. But my bigger point is I want everyone to be really, really careful about what you're hearing from conservative media about Venezuela, about support for overthrowing Maduro, about all that, because the amount of bullshit spin that I have seen coming out of conservative media on this issue is like next fucking level. The conservative bullshit machine is now finally honed. And I want everyone to really be aware that the conservative bullshit perspective is not the only perspective that exists. Only 45% of Americans support overthrowing Maduro. Guess what, guys? That means 55% of Americans don't. That doesn't bode well when we know that the left is going to come in and use this issue to recruit and radicalize more people to the left, because there is no anti-war movement on the right. There is no anti-war movement on the MAGA side. Trump is a warmonger, guys. Trump has bombed Iran without being attacked. Trump has bombed Nigeria without being attacked. And again, I have no love lost for Nigeria. I quite frankly don't really care. Trump has now bombed Venezuela and removed the... Trump is a warmongering president. There is no anti-war option on the right now. And there's a lot of people in this country that are vehemently anti-war. The left has an anti-war movement. Anti-war, anti-imperialism, that is a very, very, very large movement on the left. That is one of the core parts of leftist organizing. So if you are anti-war in the United States, again, this is a bullshit conservative talking point. All the bullshit conservative con artists are saying this. Every fucking conservative con artist that I've seen, every single person that comes in my chat and goes, I don't know why you're saying we're at war with Venezuela. We're not at war with Venezuela. You are listening to conservative bullshit con artists, and we can see right through your bullshit, bro. Seriously. There is no anti-war option on the right. The right is now the warmongering party. Trump is the warmongering president who has bombed at least 3 fucking countries in the last fucking year. If you are anti-war in this country, you only have one direction to go in. And the left is going to grab onto this issue just like they grabbed onto the Palestine issue to recruit and radicalize more people to the far left, because that is what the left does with every single issue. And if you go up to them and say, excuse me, did you know we're not really at war with Venezuela? They're going to go, then why the fuck did Trump bomb them and take their president out of office? Literally go fuck yourself. Don't lie to me. Don't gaslight me. Trump is the one that provoked that. Venezuela did not provoke that. That is what the left's answer is going to be. And there is no amount of whining and complaining and saying, because my favorite conservative influencer said so. That doesn't fucking matter.
Speakers on the panel tonight are going to give you stories and points to use to counter all this negative propaganda that people have heard about Maduro and the Bolivarian Revolution. Minnesota's own Senator Amy Klobuchar, I can't stand her. She's a horrible voting record.
Oh, yeah?
Unlike everything.
Can't stand Amy, the
especially
Democrat?
on foreign policy. But on this issue right now, she's actually voting the right way. So like we have an opportunity to talk to mainstream Democrats. We have an opportunity to talk to people in the 50-51 crowd, the No Kings crowd, the indivisible crowd.
I want people to really hear the language that she's using. We have the chance to talk to Democrats. We have the chance to talk to people in the 50-51 crowd. We have the chance to talk to people in the No Kings crowd. Guys, she does not see herself as a Democrat. She does not see herself as part of the 50-51 crowd. She does not see herself as part of the No Kings crowd. They are taking this opportunity to talk to more progressive liberal Democrat types to recruit them to the radical revolutionary far left, because this woman is a revolutionary communist. Guys, now we have the chance to go out and talk to these people in these other groups that they weren't listening to us before. And now we can pull them over to our point of view. Does everyone hear this? It's very important that you understand this. One in the chat if you understand that this woman is trying to use this as an opportunity to recruit and radicalize more people to the far left. 2 in the chat if you're confused and you think that these are No Kings protesters. We're literally just going to keep shaming your stupid ass until you shape the fuck up. Shame this person in the chat. Literally shut up and listen, Nada. Okay, seems like most people understand it. If you don't understand it, that's totally fine. Please ask a question, though. Listen to the language again.
Can't stand her. She's a horrible voting record, unlike everything. Especially on foreign policy. But on this issue right now, she's actually voting the right way. So like we have an opportunity to talk to mainstream Democrats. We have an opportunity to talk to people in the 50-51 crowd, the No Kings crowd, the indivisible crowd.
Appreciate
and so
Cynthia.
this
Thank
is an
you.
opportunity to sort of be growing our movement and sort of bringing people in and sort of building this level of pressure, because we can stop this war. And I think that's what's really important for people to understand. We've got numbers on our side, but we need to organize them and sort of push them into doing something. My last point I want to talk to you about is that we also need to reach out to the Palestine solidarity movement.
Oh!
We need to make sure that the activists that we have mobilized since October 7th are consistent anti-imperialists. Many of the people that we've been organizing with since October 7th are new activists, and some of them are anti-imperialists, but some of them are actually anti-genocide activists and don't see the instrumental role of U.S. imperialism as central to creating the death and destruction internationally that we have seen since October 7th. working on Venezuela gives them an opportunity to understand that it's not just that like Palestine is this case study of this horrible thing that happened. That is actually, this is part of a design. This is what imperialism does. And the US is
hang on. This is partially correct, but it's not always about Palestine. It's always about capitalism. It's always about capitalism. Palestine is about capitalism. US imperialism is about capitalism. Venezuela is about capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Venezuela is related to Palestine because both populations are oppressed by capitalism and they're trying to overthrow their evil imperialist, colonizer, settler, capitalist, bourgeois oppressors. The left believes that Israel are the evil capitalist settler colonists that stole the land from the Palestinians and privatized it under the oppressive force of capitalism. The left believes the United States is on stolen land and they want to liberate the land by overthrowing the government and the Constitution, returning it to Turtle Island. Turtle Island means the United States before it was colonized by the evil Europeans. No conservative bullshit talking points in my chat when I'm fucking speaking. Be fucking respectful. The left believes that what America's doing in Venezuela is about land and oil. It's about colonizing the land, creating a U.S. colony to take the oil. This is all about capitalism. When you're looking at different words that the left use for capitalism, things like imperialism, Lenin said imperialism is the highest form of capitalism. Colonization means stealing the land. Colonialism means stealing the land. Imperialism means stealing the land on a mass scale, using the military-industrial complex to do it. It's always about capitalism, always about land.
At the center of that. And so this gives us an opportunity to sort of give people an understanding of that. It is the U.S. that provides provides Israel these weapons to kill Palestinians, and the U.S. can actually tell Israel to stop. Across the globe in the Caribbean, it is the U.S. that decides who lives and who dies on fishing boats for the crime of trying to feed their own families. In both places, the U.S. is motivated by its geopolitical desire to control things and to control, resources. The U.S. uses Israel to control the broader Middle East, and the U.S. uses uses the top of South America to control the trade routes through Panama and access to the rest of the continent. For decades, Colombia was actually the Israel of Latin America, but it is no longer under the thumb of the United States. And so we have an opportunity to sort of develop, the new activists that have come forward since October 7th. And I think Venezuela gives us that opportunity. As someone with a WAN, the Anti-War Action Network, we'd really like to encourage you to join with us on the week of December 7th through 12th. That's our action week for Human Rights Day. That gives us an excellent opportunity to draw connections between what's going on in Palestine and Venezuela, as well as what's going on at home with things like ICE, and to get people into the streets. We really want to have people not do educational events for that week. We really think that it's actions in the street. We really need to show that there's an increase of level of public outrage, because that's what it's going to take to stop this war before it starts. And so we really encourage you to be a part of that raising level of momentum in this country. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this event. I'm going to turn it back over to Chrisley.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meredith. And I hope people are writing that down in their calendars, actions in the street on Human Rights Day. I think Meredith has spelled it out. This is a deeply unpopular war. It's only for the Wall Street billionaires and Trump and his cronies. He's their puppet, right? And it's beginning to show. All the social movements that have condemned.
What? Yes, it was debunking. And guess what? I make the rules on my fucking channel. You're now going in a 5-minute timeout. You come back and debunk and backtalk me again, you're going to get permanently banned from my chat. Your job is to shut the fuck up and listen and learn. Was I unclear when I said it the first 3 fucking times?
US-backed wars and genocide have brought us to this point where we can grow this movement. We should do everything we can, everything in our power to grow this movement. and take advantage of the fact that the imperialists can't even agree on how to defend it. So we'll go next to Carlos Montes from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization Central Committee, one of our very exciting leaders. Go ahead, take it away, Carlos.
Thank you very much, Chrisley, and thanks to everyone that's logged in today. It's awesome to see all you out there, all you activists that are fighting to defeat
Look at
U.S.
this old hippie
imperialism.
communist.
Yes, I joined Freedom Road Socialist Organization 30 years ago because
Yep.
I
30
agree
years
that
ago.
the main enemy of the people of the world is U.S. imperialism, and we have to defeat U.S. imperialism. U.S. imperialism has tried to use South America, Mexico, Latin, Central America as its own backyard. Now they're saying it's their front yard, right? There's been countless military overthrows of governments in Latin America, right? Mexico was invaded 3 times by the U.S. Military, right? You know, they invaded Santo Domingo, the U.S. Marines in '65. And remember, in 1989, the United States government used a stealth bomber to bomb Panama City, killing thousands of Panamanians. And they invaded only the reason to arrest Rafael Noriega. But remember that many of the elite forces that invaded Panama also died. So Stonely, Meredith, thank you very much for that awesome presentation. I was in Venezuela in 2023 for the 10-year anniversary of the passing of Hugo Chavez, and it was awesome. I met working class men and women, especially Afro-Latinos, who love the Hugo Chavez and who love the current Maduro government, right? I went to many activities. I walked downtown with another young folks, right? And I observed that the city was working. People were going to school. People were taking the bus. The whole city was functioning, right? And I didn't see what I see in downtown LA. I see in the downtown LA, I see thousands of homeless people on drugs, overdosing, homelessness, unemployment. Of course, I see, crime, drugs, and gang warfare. I didn't see any of that in Venezuela. I know people are saying, "Oh, Carlos, you were only there for 10 days, right?" But look, I've been in many cities. I've been in Mexico City. I've been in Colombia. I've been in Cuba, and I can tell when things are happening, right? I will say that the Bolivarian Revolution and the legacy of Hugo Chavez and the continuation of the Bolivarian Revolution, I saw.
Oh no, we have to stop
dozens
and repeat ourselves again. Acoustic Theory, you must have just shown up late to class. Do you really think that the majority of people in Venezuela were opposed to the leadership when they didn't try to overthrow him or assassinate him? Do you really think the majority of the people in the country were opposed to what was going on when they did nothing about it? There are a lot of communists in Venezuela that absolutely support communism and that are absolutely pissed off. And anyone who thinks that Trump is going to waltz right in there and run Venezuela because all the Venezuelans are celebrating in the street because absolutely none of them were communists, you're delusional. You're like literally delusional if you believe that.
And dozens of apartment buildings, right? I visited the pharmacy, which was loaded with all kinds of medicine, and you'll never know where it's made, right? I got a little sick. I had a doctor come to my hotel, Afro-Latino doctor. They give me the COVID test. They examined me, gave me medication. This would never happen in the United States, right? So the Bolivarian Revolution that started with Hugo Chavez has implemented massive infrastructure development, schools, clinics.
Bro, when you come into my chat and you say something really fucking retarded off the bat, I will shame your ass into oblivion. If you don't like it, get the fuck out. If you keep saying retarded shit in my chat, I will put you in a timeout. If you keep doing it after that, you can test your luck and see what happens. We do things my way on this fucking channel. You don't fucking dictate. I knew the retard shit was going to be heavy tonight. I just knew it. And guys, listen, I'm sorry. We're just going to have to deal with a lot of conservative bullshit talking points, a lot of bullshit narrative, a lot of people thinking they're all communist. Like, we're just going to have to deal with that. And we are going to shame them into oblivion. And if people don't want to shape up, then they can ship the fuck out. Because Cynthia loves it when I shame people. And I love shaming people for Cynthia and for the entertainment of everyone else. 1 in the chat if you like it when I shame the retards. 2 in the chat if you do not like it when I shame the retards. 1 in the chat if you agree with Cynthia, and thank you, darling, for the 5 channel memberships. 1 in the chat if you like it when I shame the retards. 2 in the chat if you do not like it when I shame the retards. We are a pro-shame channel. There needs to be more shaming. There needs to be more bullying. I've tried being nice for years. I have been nice for years. 2026 is not the year of Karlyn being nice. 2026 is the moment that I transcend niceness. You think I was being a bitch before? Oh, honey, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Free education and housing. You know, literally, I saw all these apartments, and I told the cab driver, "Hey, look at what I would love to live there." It was up in the hills, overlooking the ocean. I've been to Seattle, to Denver, to San Jose. And I see dozens and dozens of apartment buildings in downtown, right? And they're all market rate, expensive apartment. Even here where I live in Ball Heights, there's dozens of apartments going up, 3 stories, 5 stories. They're all market rate.
Niceness.
That is totally different from what I saw in Venezuela, right? I will also say that when I was in Venezuela, I got a chance to meet Evo Morales, in the cafeteria. I took pictures with him. We love him. I got a chance to sit like 5 rows up from Nicolas Maduro, right? And I saw how the people greeted him and loved him. And he turned around and greeted everyone. And I mean, the opposition there has very little support, right? I will also say that I want to point out that
opposition has very little support.
This whole thing that they're accusing him of being a narco-terrorist, it's all a CIA Trump plot to overthrow the government. What do they want? I think Meredith forgot to say.
The fact that they're accusing Maduro of being a terrorist is all a CIA Trump plot to overthrow the government. That's how they're positioning this, guys. Again, regardless of whether or not it is true, we do not care if it is true. We care that this is what they believe. The idea that Maduro is a terrorist that is destroying his country is a CIA Trump plot because they want to overthrow the country and take the oil. That is what the left believes. The truth does not matter. Your debunks do not matter. That is what they believe. That is what they're going to base their actions on. That is what they're going to base their organizing on. This is what is going to be in all of their propaganda. The left doesn't listen to you guys. The left doesn't listen to your bullshit con artist influencers. The left listens to their influencers. So we have to know what they believe, not what you believe, what they believe. I'm going to remind you guys, if you debunk in my chat, we are going to shame the ever-loving fuck out of you. And I want to just remind people that that you can please feel free to shame at will.
That Venezuela has the highest, biggest oil reserve in the world. Okay, in the world. More than Saudi Arabia and Iran and all the other Middle East countries, right? Trump and the bourgeoisie, the super rich, all they want is the oil. When Hugo Chavez came to power, he expropriated the oil industry, made sure that the oil revenues is for the benefit of Venezuelans. And he's also, provided oil support to other countries like Nicaragua and Cuba, even some of the other Caribbean countries, right? So U.S. imperialism is a dog, right? I mean, the people in Venezuela, I met so many people, and I like to talk to folks, right? and they are organized. They have a whole system of communes or collectives, you could say communes, that recently they had a national, a popular consultation where they had meetings. These communes have meetings, they have elections, they decide what kind of projects they want to implement in their neighborhood. I was a president of the LA City Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council for about a year, right? And all we had is advisory power. We didn't.
So Seeker went to the PSL protest in Los Angeles today and says, yes, they were talking at the protest about it being Venezuela's oil and resources. They said the economy here, the United States, is failing and people are feeling the pain. And because the economy relies on resources, we have to go pilfer it from others, and Venezuela has the most. These are the leftist talking points, guys.
Have any power to really do things, you know, but these communes that are organized all over Venezuela, and there's over 5,000 communes all over the country. This is real people power. This is the power of the people in Venezuela. And these are the...
There are over 5,000 communes in Venezuela? Excuse me?
Any power to really do things, you know, but these communes that are organized all over Venezuela, and there's over 5,000 communes all over the country. This is...
Okay. Venezuela is basically the size of Texas. I want people to imagine, what would it be like if Texas had 5,000 communes? Don't tell me that there are not communists in Venezuela that were perfectly happy with the way things were because they were living their little commune fantasy. There are a lot of fucking communists in Venezuela that were perfectly fucking happy. And conservatives can make all the excuses they want about if they spoke up against communism, okay, fine, but they're perfectly happy. They were perfectly happy, guys. And now the U.S. has removed the communist leader and is coming in to run the country. This is going to be a giant fuck off shit show. And it doesn't matter if a lot of those people don't really know any different. They don't know any other different way of life. They're not going to be happy with what's going on. And that's going to make it even harder on Trump to be able to even do anything productive with this little situation that he has created, because he's convinced himself that every single person in the country is going to be like really overjoyed that he's overthrowing their communist dictator. They didn't see it as a communist dictator. There are 5,000 fucking communes in the fucking country.
Real people power. This is the power of the people in Venezuela. And these are the same people that will defend their country. Recently, there's been massive demonstrations in support of Venezuela, denouncing Trump, that they will fight to the end to the death for their sovereignty and self-determination of Venezuela. Now, I also, I'm an anti-war activist, came out of the Chicano moratorium. I became radicalized during the Vietnam War, but I'm also an immigrant rights activist.
You seem to be confused about what we're watching right now. This is their meeting. This is their organizing meeting. This is not a video they're making to recruit people to their side. This is a video of their organizing meeting. So while socialists do often lie in their propaganda, they do not lie to each other in their private organizing meetings where they think they are only talking to each other. That would be completely nonsensical. If you are in a group of if you are in a room full of people that you think agree with you, are you going to lie to them? That doesn't make any sense.
And I always point out that mass misery, mass migration of people throughout the world, whether it's Africa, Asia, Latin America, especially, Mexico, Central America, is caused by U.S. intervention, U.S. imperialism. And we have to denounce U.S. imperialism causing the misery. And what's happening today in our cities, in L.A. and Chicago, and now it's happening in the Carolinas, where Trump is using the racist apparatus of the federal government, ICE, FBI, to attack.
ICE is the racist apparatus of the federal government. Did everyone hear that? The FBI and ICE, according to the left, is the racist apparatus of the government.
Where Trump is using the racist apparatus of the federal government, ICE, FBI, to attack.
I don't know anything about their
poor
colonies. I
working
don't study
class
Venezuela.
Chicanos, Mexicanos, Central Americans, and Venezuelans, right? That was caused by U.S. imperialism. So this is a major contradiction. I think the United States is being isolated throughout the world, not only because of support of Israel, but what it's doing to its own working class people here in the United States, right? So again, I'll point out that this is just a CIA military plot to overthrow the government, to go for the oil, and the people will not be defeated. So thank you all for being on this call, and I'll wrap it up. I'll just say that I'm going back to Venezuela. Yeah, we got to be there in solidarity. And all of you out there, organize your community, do protests, educate people. Because sometimes some of my friends, oh, Carlos, what do you care about Venezuela? Look, man, we got to always be in solidarity with oppressed nations of the world. That's why I mentioned earlier that I've been to Colombia, to Cuba. I was in even Nicaragua a couple of years ago, and I got treated better in those countries than I get treated in my own city by the authorities. So we have to show our solidarity with Venezuela, denounce U.S. empire, and organize in our communities. Thank you very much. I'll wrap it up. I know I forgot something to say, but I'll wait for the question and answer period. Thank you very much. Back to you, Chrisley.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carlos. And thanks for that glimpse into the window of what life is like there. You're right. We can't imagine it in the U.S., them trying to provide, affordable free housing, defeat illiteracy, provide medical care in the style of Cuban socialism. I can't even picture it. I hope that we have it one day in the U.S. And I don't think we're going to stop trying
I
either.
hope we have it
So
one day
next
in
we
the
will
US.
go to our third speaker of the night. We'll hear from Tom Burke, our organizational secretary in the FRSO. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, Chrisley. Solidarity, everyone.
Solidarity.
Good to see you all here. Thanks for showing up, and thanks for going out on the streets to rally and protest to stop this war in solidarity with the people of Venezuela and the Caribbean and the rest of the world, actually. So I'm going to talk about the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, the PSUV.
Oh, thank you.
A few years ago, I was able to attend their fifth Congress. There's a Honduran trade unionist there. He kept jokingly calling me the Gringo Chavista.
Gringo Chavista.
So there were people from Latin America, the Central America, the Caribbean. I was the sole North American invited, and I was proud to represent the Freedom Road Socialist Organization there. And what I saw was a big conference hall. I don't know if it was 3,000 or 5,000, but it was a lot of people. And they were in transition as a party. And what they were celebrating was that they had become a majority women in the hall, in the leadership of the party, and that about 1/3 of their membership was 35 years old or younger. And I hear that the average age now is 35 for their party. So there was a big focus on, the previous few years. I believe it was 3-year period of bringing in young people and activating women's leadership to put them in charge of things, and not just at the community level or the workplace level, but also starting to change the top leadership as well through a process of transformation. So it was exciting to be there. And in many ways, it made me think about party building for the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. We're doing great. We have a lot of new members, as you can see on this call. And we're doing exciting things, leading many struggles around immigrant rights, around Black Lives Matter, in the trade unions, in the student movement, in the anti-war movement. You know, we're strong and we're growing and people are joining every day. But we also need to study and look at other parties' experiences to understand how we're going to become a party of the working class, of the American workers, to lead a revolution in our country. Maybe
To lead a revolution in our country. That means to overthrow the government, overthrow the Constitution. Does everyone understand that? Their revolution does not happen in this country through voting. Their revolution happens in this country by overthrowing the government and overthrowing the Constitution. Hey, thanks, Ben, for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Listen again. This is an organization that is explicitly about leading a revolution in America.
ways, you know, it made me think about party building for the Freedom Road Socialist organization. You know, we're doing great. We have a lot of new members, as you can see on this call. And we're doing exciting things, leading many struggles around immigrant rights.
Oh no, guys, we got a retard in the chat. Retard in the chat. You guys actually believe that communism has been good for Venezuela? Guys, do we believe that communism has been good for Venezuela? Is that what we believe? Can we shame the retard in the chat? You were subscribed. You were subscribed to my channel for at least 5 minutes. You didn't read the description of the video. You didn't read the description of the channel. You didn't listen to anything that was said. You didn't ask any questions of you just assumed that we were all communists. Bro, that is a shockingly low IQ. Shockingly low IQ. Shame this man in the chat. Cynthia in with another 5 channel memberships. Thank you, Queen Cynthia of the chat. We love you. We adore you. We appreciate you. Congrats to everyone who got a channel membership. Okay, listen again.
Party building for the Freedom Road Socialist organization. You know, we're doing great. We have a lot of new members, as you can see on this call. And we're doing exciting things, leading many struggles around immigrant rights, around Black Lives Matter, in the trade unions, in the student movement, in the anti-war movement. You know, we're strong and we're growing and people are joining every day. But we also need to study and look at other parties' experiences to understand how we're going to become a party of the working class, of the American workers, to lead a revolution in our country. Maybe similar, maybe different to Venezuela, but we can learn lessons from them too. So just to go a little bit back in history, in '89 there was something called the Caracazo, and that was street rebellions against the government of the time. And just so you understand, Venezuela was fairly industrialized compared to most of Latin America and had a fairly developed economy, you know, a modern economy. But through the 70s and 80s, it began to decline because that's what imperialism does to countries. You know, it's a vampire who's sucking the blood out of society. And so as that process went on,
hey guys, I've seen a shocking increase in the amount of Fed posting in my chat today, and I just want to remind you guys, no fucking Fed posting in my chat. If you Fed post in my chat, I will ban you for the entire rest of the stream. I don't want any advocacy for any violence. I don't want any advocacy for overthrowing the government. I don't want any advocacy for, feeding the tree of liberty or whatever the fuck. No fucking Fed posting. No violence.
Even though social democratic parties were the main players and mostly the government's elected, there began to be rebellions against them. So when you hear Bernie Sanders or Mamdani call President Maduro a dictator or an authoritarian, you remember the social democrats were the ones who got overthrown in Venezuela by the Bolivarian Revolution. It wasn't just right-wingers, you know? And so from that Caracazo, Chavez led a military uprising, not a coup d'etat. He didn't want to just seize power because he could have done that.
He did say Mandami.
He wanted to have a people's uprising, a mass uprising. And they had attempted from the
Ben is asking a great question here. Am I wrong in making the comparison that they're treating this like a cult? No. It's a great comparison. There is a reason that my regular show on this channel is called The Cult. There's a reason for that. The left is a cult, guys. Now, there are other cults too. The left is not the only cult that exists. MAGA is a cult. Grapers are a cult. Libertarians are a cult. Like every group is its own little cult in many respects. But the left absolutely doesn't. Now, the left doesn't have a leader, though, is the thing. The left is not a hierarchical like subculture. And you know what? Like, listen, I actually, like, if I'm being real about it, I don't think it's useful necessarily to think of the left as a cult, because that brings to mind certain connotations. When I say a cult, I mean there is a very particular leftist subculture. It is a subculture. When you guys say cult, you tend to think there is a leader that's dictating orders to them and they are all mindlessly following. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening at all. It's like an ideological cult. And it's like every other cult. It's like they only listen to other things the far left says. They only have friends from the far left. They are only reading far left books. By the way, MAGA only listens to things that MAGA says. MAGA only reads the things that MAGA reads, if they read at all, which is quite rare. MAGA only listens to conservative influencers who say the things they want them to say. So you could literally say the same things about the left as you could say of MAGA. You could say the same things about all of them, because that's just the way these subcultures form. And I want to be very, very clear about that. The left is not unique in this regard. Do they operate like an ideological cult? Yes, but I don't want anyone thinking that your group is morally superior or that your particular group doesn't operate like a cult, because almost every single subculture operates in the same way.
The perch of the military to reach all the left parties and revolutionary movements and mass groups that they thought would participate. But it didn't work out. So he surrendered himself and went to prison. And then the next crisis came along and he was able to get the movement to release him and force the president to release him. And that's when he started running for office and won the election in 1999, as Meredith said. And that was a big surprise.
Yeah, we're a cult
not
too.
just
This is
to
a
the
cult.
ruling
You're in a
class
cult right now.
in Venezuela, and not just to the US and the CIA. It was a surprise to a lot of the left parties that didn't really work that hard on his campaign. He went out and met with them, and he decided he would go around most of them because they weren't enthusiastic about running a campaign. So the left in the country had to run and play catch up with Chavez and the Bolivarian movement. It wasn't until 2007 that they actually formed a party, and that's the PSUV. And that was a big step forward, because to advance a revolution, you have to have a party, an army, and a united front. And the army was where the revolution was emanating from, and they built an alliance with the civilian movements. And that's what Maduro represents in the scheme of things. So you have the civilian military alliance. But as they developed a party, you know, they had to consolidate the movements and give leadership to things. So that's where the PSUV came from. The core of leaders, I remember studying it at the time, and I have friends who are in Venezuela and comrades. It's fair to say that most of the leaders came from Marxist-Leninist parties of the 70s and 80s. Some people reached back to the national liberation movements of the 1960s, where they were trying to do like what Che and Fidel did in Cuba in the 60s. But many of them, like Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, and her brother Jorge, their father was the founder and leader of a movement called the Socialist League. And he was actually organizing, you know, urban trade unionist community groups, you know, different sectors of society, the student movement. And the police captured him in the early 70s. And after 3 weeks, he was found dead in a cell because they tortured him and murdered him. So when you see Delcy Rodriguez or Jorge Rodriguez, who are often in the news, they know full well what the revolution is about. They've lived it their whole lives, and their father's one of the main martyrs. So the people from those parties formed the core of the PSUV back in 2007, along with the revolutionaries of the military. And you'll meet people, in full Army or Navy uniforms. And if you're talking with them, you find out, well, they're actually generals. Or one time we got to talk to the chief of staff because he was excited to tell us about his trip to New York with Chavez and how he had been banned from returning to New York. He was very proud of that. But they'll tell you, oh, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, and they'll explain to you their life experience.
I love it when people
even
don't
though
listen
they've
to
been in
me
the
when I say I'm
military
gonna
for
time
30
them out for the
years or
rest of the
20
stream if
years,
they don't shut the fuck up
And that's a
and stop
little bit
headphone.
different than what I've experienced in other places, especially in the US. So understand that the military is at the core of the revolution. So
Hang
today,
on. I'm sorry. What? The military is at the core of the revolution? Did anyone else just catch that, or were we shit posting in the chat? Rewind. 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 Rewind.
Father's one of the main martyrs. So the people from those parties formed the core of the PSUV back in 2007, along with the revolutionaries of the military. And
Revolutionaries of the military.
you'll meet people, in full Army or Navy uniforms. And if you're talking with them, you find out, well, they're actually generals. Or one time we got to talk to the chief of staff because he was excited to tell us about his trip to New York with Chavez and how he had been banned from returning to New York. He was very proud of that. But they'll tell you, oh, I'm a Marxist-Leninist, and they'll explain to you their life experience, even though they've been in the military for 30 years or 20 years, And that's a little bit different than what I've experienced in other places, especially in the US. So understand that
Guys, what that means is the military supports Maduro in Venezuela. That's what it means. The military is full of communists in Venezuela who support Maduro. Gee, what could possibly go wrong? There's 5,000 communes in Venezuela. The military's what could possibly go wrong with this Vietnam level shit show that Trump has escalated us into for no good fucking reason?
military is at the core of the revolution.
Boom.
So today you have a party that's, a party of hundreds of thousands of people organizing millions of other people. And they do it through different organizational forms, but they have something called the Units of Battle of Hugo Chavez, which they talked about a lot 3 years ago as a basic core element in communities, workplaces, on campuses.
Yeah, what a time to be alive.
Throughout government,
Real.
institutions. And it's the basic core group of organizing for the party. And those people are responsible to mobilize people for elections. But it's not only electoral party, They don't describe it as a Marxist-Leninist party. They say it's a party of 21st century socialism, that it uses the ideas of Marx and Lenin and other revolutionaries, Che and Mao and Ho Chi Minh, others like that. But it's also bringing in other strands of thought. So ideologically, it's a little bit different than what we do. And it's the party of the National Democratic Revolution. So they say they want to transform to socialism, and that's their goal. But they currently still have an economy that's mainly in private hands. And so they have some work to do to transform society. So that's what the party is also working at. It intersects with all the comunas, all the communes. It also intersects with the new trade union federations that are being formed in the coming weeks. And we plan to send a couple of comrades there to observe that and participate in the elections of their new trade union leadership. So they're going to really transform things, and the PSUV plays a role at all these levels, different than the state or different than the mass movements. It's where the ideas are brought into practice. All right. So, of course, the head of this is Nicolas Maduro, the bus driver, who they call the worker president proudly, and a former union leader. So in the future, if the FRSO has any bus driver union presidents, we better keep an eye on them. They might end up doing something terrific, you know? So I'm going to say that another element of the PSUV is this idea of protagonistic democracy that Carlos kind of hit on, that it's not just about voting and then hoping the representatives do what is right. It's participating. You know, when the right wing tries to overthrow the revolution, we met union workers at the electric company. And they said, oh, you see these highways behind our building? The right wingers came there with rifles and started shooting at us. And we were like, so what'd you do? They said, well, we went to our lockers and got our rifles and started shooting back at them. And they ran away. So these militias have been organized for decades now.
Hey, Tim, I want you to cut out the shit posting, okay? No more.
And it's not going to go away. It's not going to be pushed over easily by, you know, Hegseth and Rubio and Trump. They are not going to win this, you know, and solidarity is the key for us. So I'll end it there, but we have to do our job here to help stop a war. We helped organize a big event in New York City with the foreign minister of Venezuela during UN week, very successful event. We're going to make history alongside the peoples of Latin America and the Caribbean and defend the Bolivarian Revolution. Thank you, comrades.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. And thanks for talking to us about the shining example of a national liberation revolution that is Venezuela, right? Revolutionaries who are learning from Marxist-Leninists just like we are. And you talking about how it's possible for us to kind of make a big dent in the effort to go to war and actually kind of win this reminded me of the role that we played in getting out Alex Saab, who was a businessman and a diplomat who the U.S. kidnapped, who was on a mission to arrange better trade deals for Venezuela, get around the sanctions. And we actually had protests and he got free. You know, that actually happened. We can actually, you know, we should do whatever we can and keep trying. And now for the final speaker of the night, let's hand it off to Jim Byrne from the Freedom Road Socialist Organization and also in Arizona. And just a reminder to people to send us your questions, please, because after this we'll have question and answer. And I'm so excited to hand it off to Jim to take us home.
Right on. Thanks, Chris Lee, and thanks to all the speakers before and everybody here tonight.
Hey, Tim,
having been to Venezuela twice, I lived there.
Listen, bro. I understand that you don't like it, but my chat in the middle of a class is not the appropriate place to vent your frustrations. You are in a class right now, and you're basically screaming out every couple of minutes something that has nothing to do with the class. I've asked you to stop. I asked you to stop very nicely. I'm not going to be fucking nice anymore. I don't care what emotions you have, bro. Your emotions are not my fucking business. Go air them somewhere else.
For 6 months a while ago. It means a lot to me to see that, knowing that there's people that are very near and dear to my heart who are there and would be involved in an active war zone if Trump and Hegseth and Marco Rubio can't get the deal done they want at the table. And so far, Maduro and the Venezuelan people are holding tight there and not giving into the immediate demands. So I wanted to kind of talk through some of those, fill in some more timeline pieces that are there. And kind of keep driving on what Tom just spoke to, which is every time the people of Venezuela, the government of Venezuela has been confronted with a problem, either internal or external, they've come up with a Bolivarian solution to it. Venezuela's National Democratic Revolution has been defeating U.S. intervention for over a quarter century by confronting those problems with popular power and organization. As Tom mentioned, you've got the PSUV as a party created to take on the problem of a lack of unity across multiple progressive and left forces, and to unite at a higher level of organization with 7 guiding principles about how do we actually implement these ideas of revolution, of popular power, of a communal state, of an armed forces that is nationalized and has a very different ideological training and orientation to its people, as well as rewriting their constitution so it doesn't serve the interest of the capitalist powers and compradors who just want to let land go fallow and hoard and gouge products and things like that to make the economy scream from within. When 2002 happened and Comandante Chavez was attacked, it was the people and loyal military who rallied to his defense and came to defend their own revolution and the path forward. It seems it is a long time ago, and we wouldn't be here today in this type of situation if the people hadn't rallied heroically to defend their president. Later on in that same year, there was an oil worker strike and lockout. The AFL-CIA was in there with the Solidarity Center and other actors trying to lock out / strike to shut down Venezuela's key nationalized industry of oil, which deprives it of its wealth to give back to the people through educational, healthcare, social programs, and things like that.
Yeah.
So what did they do? He came up with a
Education
Bolivarian solution.
Hey, guys,
Let's investigate who's.
Guys, we are listening to the president of the Tucson Education Association Teachers Union right now. I want everyone to just take a moment to think about that. Teachers Union in Arizona.
Who's doing all this stuff? Fire the rats and hire new workers and leadership who are aligned to the people and their problems. Then they come up with these popular militias, and the popular militias are integrated at the higher levels with the national armed forces, which sit at close to 200,000 personnel within the country, between National Guard, Army, military, Air Force, and reservists. And there's, what they've said is they've almost doubled the amount of Venezuelans enrolled in these popular militias. I think we saw some of those great photos and reels coming out on social media of like old nanas with rifles training and getting ready to defend their neighborhoods, their barrios from the Yankee invaders. As things moved on, they saw a police force in need of training and certainly equipment, and they moved around it and created a national force, much like they did to reorient the military to root out rats and traitors, whether they be just corrupt, crooked folks or they're kind of more active counter-revolutionaries. I'll give a quick example about that. When I lived in Venezuela a number of years ago, I was all the way out on the east side of the country, pretty remote area, living in one of the many small indigenous villages out there. And in the village, there's kind of a medic or a doctor. And when, little kids were getting sick or other people needed medicine, and they're like, well, we got to wait a long time when they don't have any, and or that things cost an amount of money. Knowing that there might be some dynamics, I tried to curiously ask, like, I don't mean to be rude, but I thought I heard healthcare was free, and they're like, it is, but the distribution networks go through either governors or the military, and there's some people who don't think their salary's high enough, and they'll pocket the medicine and sell it on the black market. And some of that is because they're just greedy. Others were just traitors and wanted to make the revolution look bad. And this is 15 years ago. So what do you do in those types of situations? And granted, that was 8 years removed from a coup. Well, it's working on the training, and it's growing a party from bottom up to ideologically change the orientation of how armed forces and the military should be serving defense of their people.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Hey, you know, the communist doesn't have blue hair and he speaks in coherent sentences. He seems like an all right guy. Have we really reached this level of retardation, conservatives? You know, that communist, he doesn't have blue hair and he's not yelling at me. He seems really nice. He's an okay guy. I don't mind that that communist is teaching my kids. I don't mind that that communist is indoctrinating my kids into leftist ideology, because you know what? He doesn't have blue hair and he's not yelling at us. And he, like, I really think I can have a conversation with this communist. Like, he seems okay. He's you know, he's speaking coherently and he's really nice and he's not making me feel like I need to cry and all this. Are we seriously at this fucking level of retardation? Do you know where you are right now? Do you understand what we're doing here? He looks like a regular guy. I can trust this communist. Mm-hmm.
Not capital and private property. So
Capital
moving
and
through
private
that, kind of jumping past into the unfortunate post-Chavez era, 2014 saw some nasty interventions in February with the guarimbos, or these road blockades that were later replicated in with the tranques in Nicaragua in 2018. And these are anti-popular forces. They're oppositional groups. They're often lumpen characters and things like that. But one thing I wanted to share is I think we know that media can be manipulated. And this was definitely a case at that time, 10 plus years ago, when seeing on, you know, progressive left people across social media sharing this image of this like hulking, almost Judge Dredd looking police officer with like a club in his hand and dragging a protester, and people are like, oh my gosh, look at like the Venezuelans, of course they're cracking down, they're authoritarian. Well, somebody did their homework and that photo was from Spain, 2005. And so these are the kind of media manipulations we always got to be on high guard, especially as Trump has found to be unpopular with this attempt at war. There's 76% of the people don't even believe his bullshit about these drug strikes and any of this narco trafficking stuff. And so, like Meredith said, we got to claim that message. We got out there and call out their bullshit and tell the truth about what's actually going on there and defend this revolution best we can. So as 2014 also hit ahead, there was price gouging, there was hoarding of food. So they took food off shelves, driving up the prices. Hyperinflation went through the roof. They had warehouses full of eggs, toilet paper, cooking oil, milk, flour, and all sorts of different powder products needed for Venezuelan meals. And they put them inside of armed warehouses and just held it back to make it look like there was some sort of economic crisis. 14 was also when they got Saudi Arabia to drop the price of oil way down to try and really bring Venezuela to its knees. And so the work of that party, the work of President Maduro, and the work of the Venezuelan people united, heavily organized, ready to defend their revolution, not only in 14, in 18, and assassination attempts and invasion attempts in 19 and 20, and trying to like install different people at every step of the way. They've overcome the sanctions. And in 25 years, the Venezuelan people, their party, the
Hey, Wispy, what is the goal of the far left? What is the number one goal of the far left? This is only for Wispy. This is for no one else. What is the goal of the far left? Wispy, what is the goal of the far left? No, concur is not English. Speak in English. What is the goal of the far left, Wispy? No, this is only for Wispy, no one else. Cynthia already in with another 5 channel membership. Cynthia, you're incentivizing me yelling at people. You understand that? You're incentivizing it. Hey, Wispy, we're still waiting for that answer, bro. What's the goal of the far left? Wispy only, no one else. Cynthia, right on cue. Yep. Wispy, what is the goal of the far left? Not answering is not an option. You either answer or you say, I don't know. Wispy, I'm waiting for your answer. We've stopped the entire stream just for you, bro. We've stopped the entire stream just for you. What is the goal of the far left? What is it? Oh, he said destroy. Wispy, I don't think you're smart enough to be here, bro. And yeah, is that your final answer? Because if it is, I'm going to permanently ban you from my chat because it means you're not smart enough to be here and you haven't been listening to a word that's being said all night. So do you want to try again? No. Don't be fucking cute. Don't be fucking clever. You want to know why? You're neither cute nor clever. Answer the fucking question. What is the goal of the far left? Either say the answer like a fucking grown-up or get the fuck out. Bye! Bye! Not smart enough to be here. Bye! Go away. Bye! Permanently banned. Bye! We don't want you here. Go away. Hey, thanks, Ray, for the Rumble rant. Stop debunking to retards on YouTube. Geez, Dr. K, toddlers listen better. I know. This is my struggle. And someday when I write my memoir about this time in my life, I will call it My Struggle for this explicit purpose. Now with that problem rectified, let's continue.
Bolivarian revolution are ready to hand U.S. imperialism another Vietnam if they invade. They stand behind their democratically elected president. They're armed and ready to defend their homeland. Que viva Venezuela. Thank you.
Viva Venezuela.
Viva, hasta la victoria. Thank you so much, Jim. That was an incredible presentation. Yeah. Drones blowing out the power system, food hoarding, sanctions, just outright killings, and the Venezuelan people will not go down. And we will make sure that everything we do is in lockstep with the Venezuelan people in the world who insist on being free. So thank you so much to our incredible speakers of the night. We're going to ask the questions now that have been sent to us. And there's quite a few, so
good Q&A.
Get ready, y'all. Okay, let's see. So we'll start with a question from Philip in San Jose. And then it doesn't specify a panelist, so whoever wants to answer it can take a stab. How does Maria Machado come into play in regard to the message that we want to send out in these actions? Could she be a primary target depending on conditions? Yeah, go ahead, Meredith.
I think that she's a really great way to reach out to people in the anti-war movement because she's been super pro-Trump and she's been super pro-Netanyahu, and I think that she's super pro-Israel, and I think that that's been a really great tool because if she's been very supportive of the genocide of the Palestinian people, how can she be this great defender of human rights? Like, how can she be a Nobel Peace Prize recipient? But also, how can she be someone who is worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize if she's also advocating for the US to come and invade her own country? There's no such thing as a peaceful invasion. So I think that sort of gets people to think about, what does the opposition movement really have in terms of any credibility at all? And so I think that she sort of gets people to think about, when people start to hear those things, I think it gets people to think about, oh, what type of lies am I being sold to sort of get me to want to believe in this justification for, attacking these boats, being pro, invasion, where does this train of logic lead me to go? And so I think it can be good for sort of starting to get people to think for themselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meredith. So she's a terrible person and a great talking point is what I'm hearing. Are there any more panelists who want to speak to this? If not, we can just move on to the next question. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. All right, so it's Rick from Texas asking, from Dallas. The question I wanted to ask is that the composition of the left that is being principally by the PSUV. Okay, let me read this.
Hang on. Before we get to the question from Dallas, Texas, We got two ladies, Little Miss, and it is amazing seeing how they are organizing and trying to bring in more converts. Yeah, they're going to bring in a lot more. I promise you. I promise you that is absolutely going to happen. Thanks so much, two ladies. I appreciate it, as always. Guys, we got another retard in the chat. There's another retard in the chat. Guys, tech support here thinks that we're watching Democrats right now. Does anyone want to educate tech support about what we're actually watching right now? Tech support, do you know where you are? Did you bother to listen before you decided to run your mouth on my channel? Do you have any idea what's going on right now? Do you really think that, well, I mean, like you gotta be some level of stupid, bro. They were literally just talking about reaching out to Democrats to radicalize them earlier in the presentation. They're the party of destruction, hence why they have demo in the title. Oh, you really saved fucking humanity there, bro. You don't even know who we're watching right now. You have no clue what's going on. You are completely unhinged from reality. We are not watching Democrats. These are not Democrats. These people don't vote for Democrats. These people don't vote at all. These people are socialists and communists. Hey, thank Cheek Butt. Appreciate it. It is possible to listen, guys. It is possible to listen. Yeah, that was a deep conservative bullshit talking point. That one was deep. Yeah, we don't shitpost here, bro. We don't shitpost. We aren't impressed by it. Listen and learn, ask good questions.
Word for word. Hey, comrades, thank you for this excellent presentation. I wanted to ask, is that the composition of the left that is being principally by the PSUV has opposition from certain sectors? Oh, so if the composition of the left that is the PSUV, if it has opposition from certain sectors despite the heavy arm of imperialism attacking Venezuela. And so my question was, what is the current relationship between the communist CPV and the PSUV as this current U.S. aggression grows?
That's a good question.
So the relationship between the CPV
Everyone
and the
listen,
PSUV,
pay attention.
and what resistance the PSUV faces. Does anyone want to answer that?
That's
Yeah, I'll
a
answer
great
that.
question, actually.
So it's not a good situation if you're in the old Communist Party, because you have to choose. You either have to choose the Communist Party that's pro-Chavista, pro-Maduro, pro-PSUV, and aligns with it, or you have to choose the other Communist Party with the same name that calls Maduro a neoliberal, says that he's serving foreign interests, says that he's...
So that's actually a good answer, because someone earlier in the chat asked a really good question, which is, do communists actually think that Nicolas Maduro was a communist? Do communists actually think that Venezuela is a communist country? And what we're finding out is some do and some don't. Some completely thought that Nicolas Maduro was great and he was definitely a communist. There are also some communists in the United States that don't think he's a communist, that think he's a liberal, that did not support him. And that's you know, I mean, that's like pretty typical, right? They're like, listen, this is why it's really important to understand that there are so many different leftist groups in America. Some are bigger than others. Some are more organized than others. Some are more focused on intellectualism about it. Some are more focused on direct action. It really, I mean, the far left in America is a really wide gamut of beliefs. There is no one belief that every single group adheres to, with the possible exception of capitalism bad, we need to overthrow capitalism. Beyond that, if we're talking about some of them liked Lenin, some of them liked Stalin, some of them didn't like Lenin, some of them didn't like Stalin, some of them liked Mao, some of them don't like Mao, some of them still read all of the old philosophy, some of them don't read the old philosophy and they read zines, some of them believe China's a communist country, some of them don't believe China's a communist country. Actually, most of them don't believe China's a communist country. Some of them believe that Venezuela was a pure communist dictatorship in the not dictatorship, because I don't think it's a dictatorship. They believe that Venezuela was a communist paradise and then Nicolas Maduro was a good comrade. Some of them believe that Nicolas Maduro is a liberal and that Venezuela was not communist at all. So you can never, and I really did appreciate the question at the beginning, because you really can never assume all communist groups support Venezuela. Well, no, we're finding out that no, they actually don't. Some do, some don't. And it really just depends on which groups are involved. Listen again. I don't want to hear any more fucking arguing in the chat. This is not what we're doing here.
But resistance the PSUV faces. Anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll answer that. So it's not a good situation if you're in the old Communist Party, because you have to choose. You either have to choose the Communist Party that's pro-Chavista, pro-Maduro, pro-PSUV, and aligns with it, or you have to choose the other Communist Party with the same name that calls Maduro a neoliberal, says that he's serving foreign interest, says that he's repressive and undemocratic, says all the things that the right wingers say about the revolution, And so, currently we know people, I'm quite close with a guy who's in the leadership of the party that's anti-Maduro, but I stopped talking to him after my last trip there. And I also know people and have friends who are in the pro-PSUV, pro-Bolivarian Revolution, CPV. So what happened was a series of legal proceedings that defined which party was the legitimate party. And you can kind of go through it if that's what you're of the mind to do. But, there were a lot of discrepancies in how the party was being run and funded, and its processes in terms of internal democracy. And so that all ended up in court, and the courts ruled that, the anti-Chavista ones weren't in charge of it anymore. They handed it to the folks who are pro-Chavista. So that's the current standing. So you might read two different statements from, a party with the same name. So that's where it's at right now. And just to say, neither of those parties is very big or powerful, given that, on May Day, the PSUV will get 2 million people out in the streets of Caracas, even when the party was united and pro-Chavista, we went to the pre-rally and spoke at it, and there were about 150 to 200 people, and that's when they were having good times, so versus 2 million. So, I've been in a small group most of my life, so I don't discount small groups of people who are determined to make a revolution. But I think we all know the revolution's being led from Maduro's seat in the presidential palace.
100%. Thank you so much, Tom. Do any of the other panelists want to speak to this question? Okay. If not, we'll go ahead and move right along. Okay, so from Faye in Fort Worth, Texas, can you speak more to the private property relations in Venezuela and what progress the PSUV has made in the past few decades towards the progress of socialism, and what ways they've protected the workers against class conflict in the process?
Oh, yeah? That sounds like a great
Property
question.
relations in Venezuela. Any of the other speakers who haven't spoken? Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I know for sure in kind of some of the early few years, like early 2000s, as Chavez elected and really started in 99 with a whole new constitution, that they knew there was a lot of land laying fallow in Venezuela. And, they were importing somewhat to like close to 90% of their food and they're looking around like, we got all this land and we've got like people who know how to grow food and lots of people who aren't, are looking for different forms of employment. That was part of the consequences of that neoliberal structural adjustment program that hit in the 70s and the 80s. And so they were offering those landowners money, and they're like, all right, but also if you leave that, if you got productive land left fallow, if you're not going to offer it to us, we're going to start taking it. And so there's that aspect of grabbing up that land, purchasing it, and then they also there are people who knew how to grow food, but then they also were like not enough people, and so they grew a lot of like technical colleges as they expanded post-secondary education. They passed a lot of like biological and organic laws to try and grow healthy food as well, and not use the typical stuff that gets made on U.S. corporate farms. That's one aspect of it. But there's in some of the more remote regions and further away from Bolivarian sources of power, some of there still are campesino issues. But those have started to been handled through better organization, campesino organizations, and support. Those were probably late 20-teens and early 2020s to address some of those peasant questions. They've taken a lot of the wealth from the nationalization of oil and used it towards creating productive enterprises and actual industries that can manufacture things, engineering plants, making not only making cooking oil and things like that on their own. So very much an internal development growth with it, and lots of working class organizations and unions at all of those places participating in that way. They do have a number of different organic laws, as they call them, in their constitution about like how business should go and enterprises and things like that. But that still remains the work of the revolution, which is to really grab more of the means of production.
Wolf, in with the 5 gifted channel memberships. Thank you, Wolf, for those 5 gifted channel memberships. I really appreciate it. Congrats to everyone who got a channel membership. As a reminder, guys, because we are going to be kicking the year up, it is January. I can't believe it. If you are a YouTube channel member or a Substack subscriber or a local subscriber or a Patreon supporter or a Twitter subscriber, but in this case, I'm specifically talking to YouTube channel members because a lot of you have been gifted new memberships. I do a thing called Spy Stream, where we go inside live leftist organizing calls and we're like a fly on the wall. We listen to what they're saying live. These are usually supporter exclusive calls. So if you have a channel membership, you're going to be able to go to these calls. Now, January is just getting started. The organizing apparatus are getting up and running, but I want everyone who's gotten a YouTube channel membership just to be aware to keep a lookout for these calls, and you can come and join us. And on Rumble, I think you guys should be able to get access to it through locals if you're a member over on Rumble. If you can't, please let me know and I will try to figure out another way to support you guys. Rumble is not the best platform for doing stuff like this, if I'm honest about it. But like, if you're a YouTube channel member, if you're a Substack subscriber, if you support me on other platforms, you are welcome to come to Spy Stream, and I post that in the community or post tab and when we're doing them, so you have the links to it there. So I appreciate the support, and congrats to everyone who got a channel membership. What is well, okay, so this again. So in this case, it's probably going to be more of an economic thing, like commandeering the factories, commandeering like the means of production. If you're getting more into queer Marxism, the means of production is the nuclear family. But these are not queer Marxists, okay? These are kind of like old school economic communists. These are not people who are trying to abolish the gender binary. They're not trying to abolish the nuclear family. That's a different subset of queer Marxism. So when they're referring to it, they're like no private ownership of business, essentially, where the businesses are going to be owned and operated by the people, the proletariat. It's like a co-op thing. So that's really what we're talking about in this specific case. Thank you, Little Miss. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's going to be a great year, guys. We're going to get a lot of shit done this year. It's going to be awesome.
And really grab more private property, and especially the financial institutions like banks.
Yeah, sometimes I do like
get on a different system that's away from the petrodollar and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. Tom, I see you unmuting. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to say, I regularly talk to people in Caracas. I've only been about an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of it at any time. We visited a large printing press, that had been owned by a Argentinian corporation that abandoned it. So the workers took it over and were running it. But when we were there, we were talking with people, and people in the city also say that there's as many as 4 million Colombians who have moved into Venezuela over the past 20 years to farm, 4 million people. So you don't hear about that in the news. You only hear about people leaving the country. But there is a neighborhood to the east of Caracas called Petare that is 500,000 Colombian people, born in Colombia. But that's Venezuelans and Colombians. They consider each other cousins, and they're very welcoming to each other to move within their countries. There's a lot of new industries that have been built. So the things I'm familiar with firsthand is there's motorcycles that are sold in other countries now. There's a big aluminum industry that was built with investments that Chavez began. And I'm just going to say, I think they had foresight about why would you want to have an aluminum industry? Well, if you know that the U.S. is eventually going to threaten you with war, you might want to build things that are easy to fly, And so I don't know that for a fact. I'm just someone who tries to think about things and put them together. And yes, Meredith, I read The Economist for 25 years every week. So I agree with you about The Economist, but it also has a lot of raw information that's helpful to understand the economy. They're a country that's on the march. They've had 18 quarters of growth. And some of that growth is, small percentage points, some's larger. And, it comes after really devastating impacts of the sanctions. But, they're like Muhammad Ali, fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. And the U.S. better be careful. So.
Awesome. Thanks so much to our panelists. Yeah, they're trying to advance their productive forces, and there's a leadership question, right? And we want to see working class leadership for sure. All right. Let's see. Wow, we have so many questions, y'all. That's awesome. We'll go next to David Pulido from Orange County. I was wondering if a speaker could elaborate on how the Venezuelan left is trying to gain more control of their economy. Please feel free to frame this question more appropriately. They say they're very ignorant on the subject, but now they've heard a bunch of presentations, so they won't be ignorant anymore. Is there more that panelists want to speak about this? I think it's been answered at least partially. Venezuelan left getting control. Okay, David gives it a thumbs up. Cool. Thanks so much. Rolling right along. Okay, from Lena in Minnesota, how do we determine the right balance to strike between organizing Venezuela-centric actions versus Palestine-centric actions? So for all the anti-war activists in the House, how do we strike the balance? Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's like the $25 million question, and I totally understand Lena's question. And so I think Human Rights Day, for example, lends us an opportunity to be able to, deal with both at the same time. I think that some of it has to do with what's in the news. For example, I think we've been given a real moment for the fact that they're actually talking about the double tap, is this been a war crime? And I think that what has been happening in Palestine is a war crime. So you could have, for example, an opportunity to talk about stop funding war crimes, and you could talk about both places. I mean, I think there's ways to draw those connections to both. I think that it's important. And I think the benefit of talking about both at the same time is it does give us the opportunity to, again, trying to train people to think like consistent anti-imperialists, as opposed to just to be like, oh, look, here's the US doing a really bad thing this one place here. And like that was a problem that we did have during the US war in Iraq, like where people would be like, oh, Bush is being just so mean. And it's like, no, he's not being mean. This is like actually US policy for a reason. But you know, I do think it is really challenging. And I think that you know, one way that we've dealt with in the anti-war committee, as you know, Lena, is sort of like having different subcommittees to be able to sort of like have different groups of people sort of work on different things. But I would love to hear from the other panelists too, like how you can sort of deal with a multi-pronged imperialism at the same time, because unfortunately the US does have the ability to destroy, to terrorize lots of different groups of people at the same time. So Lena deserves an answer from someone not from Minnesota, because Lena's from Minnesota.
All right, non-Minnesotan panelists, how do we strike the balance? Who wants to take a stab at it? Only Meredith knew the answer. Only Minnesota knows. Are people trying to be shy, be nice?
Poor Lena.
And if we're doing both, we should say we're doing both. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Sure. I think I also organize with our Tucson Anti-War Committee, and we're getting ready for running a campaign against a manufacturer who contributes to the F-35 that rains hellfire over used by Israel and contributes to the genocide through bombing, death, destruction, and just hawking the skies and trying to probably intercept Yemeni missiles and stuff like that, but fails to do that. Great. But the U.S. also uses F-35s to hawk the shores of Venezuela as well. Israel has trained with U.S. forces and Colombian forces, which can be, have historically been used to try and sort of, as Meredith said, be sort of a U.S. bulwark against the so-called pink tide and any progressive and left forces trying to break away from U.S. imperial wranglings. But I think it's kind of knowing those issues and drawing those similar connections of like, these are just kind of people trying to liberate themselves and live their own lives, self-determined. And it's a similar logic, and I think knowing that what Trump says about Palestinians and what he thinks, both in this current administrative term and the previous one, are just talking points to bring there. But I think it's really a chance for us to show those connections across this system, that we have a common enemy, as Comrade Carlos said, and that there's these ties that are woven together, whether that's in Latin America or in the Middle East or in East Asia. And so defending those is supporting those, and it helps us here at the United States
always and
raise
forever.
all those issues and start to sort of raise the level of organization and consciousness amongst ourselves, so we can broaden that fight together.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we want to raise that consciousness. All right. So because of the plethora of questions, let's take the next one. So from Druzy in San Jose, hello, they're wondering if anyone could talk about other left governments or forces in Latin America and their relationship of solidarity with Venezuela throughout U.S. attacks, and vice versa, Venezuela's solidarity with others in Latin America against U.S. attacks. Yeah. More about anti-imperialist forces in Latin America. Yes, Meredith.
Well, I think that the U.S. is in a pickle, in that I think it would be in a very different situation if Colombia was still a U.S. ally, because they could then go through Colombia to attack Venezuela, but they can't do that this time. Like, whereas several of the other times that they've tried to organize coups against Maduro, they've been able to send forces through Colombia, but they can't do that this time.
Oh,
And
it's like that didn't really
matter of fact,
matter.
one thing that's also been hurting the U.S.'s efforts in the Caribbean is that the Caribbean is that Colombia has also just said, "Well, you know what? One of the consequences of this is that we're not cooperating with you on intel. Like if you actually care about drugs, you need to work with us because actually most of the drugs are coming through our country. And so F you, we're not cooperating with you. So if you actually want intel about drugs, you're not getting it now. So good luck with that." And then actually the UK and the Netherlands have also withdrawn any of their intel about what's going on in the Caribbean. And so it's been really interesting that they're like actual like cooperation, like consequences in terms of diplomatic that like are actually making it harder for the US to actually do things around drugs, which I think which actually calls into question if this was ever about drugs, which we know is true. It's never about drugs. It was always about like geopolitical control, oil, and like getting rid of a government.
Retard in the chat, another retard citing in the chat, guys. We can't even get 5 minutes through the stream without her. Do these people not understand that everyone in the country hated him and everyone is celebrating right now and the US is the most powerful country in the world? Shame this person, please. Shame this person. Bro, only retards believe that there was no one in Venezuela who supported Nicolas Maduro. Only retards believe that. If there was really no one in Venezuela that supported Maduro, there wouldn't have been 5,000 communes in Venezuela. The military wouldn't be controlled by the fucking communists. And he would have been overthrown or assassinated a long time ago. So Trump just got us into a Vietnam-level conflict in South America, and conservative retards have really convinced themselves that there were no communists in Venezuela. There were communists in Venezuela. There are communists in Venezuela. There are a lot of fucking communists in Venezuela. And if they hadn't liked him, they would have overthrown him and killed him a long-ass time ago. So can we please hinge into reality, conservatives? That's like saying no one in the U.S. supported Biden. Well, no, actually, there were millions and millions and millions of people that supported Biden. You might not have, and that's fine. I certainly didn't, but there were over 100 million people that did. Cynthia in with the 5 gifted channel memberships. I appreciate you, my dear. Thank you. Congrats to everyone who got a channel membership from Cynthia.
That dares to like question like the US's capitalist order. But I think that the situation with Colombia has been very interesting because he definitely is a part of sort of like also providing, a no guy in the region, like, so it's not just Maduro that says no to the US now. And the US has never had no from Colombia. Like that is just sort of like a totally new thing. And I'll turn it over to Carlos.
Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
No, absolutely. Petro, the president of Colombia, he's being very vocal, standing in solidarity with Venezuela, saying we're a united people. If you, you even said if you attack Venezuela, we'll defend Venezuela. So that is a major development. I was in Colombia, before the peace treaty was signed. They had a very right-wing government at that time, Uribe, So it's awesome development that the mass movement was able to elect Petro. And then, you got the BRIC nations, you got Brazil, you got China, Russia that are in the forming economic political alliances that are supporting Venezuela. Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, has said, has criticized Trump in his attack on Venezuela. And also says, you can't attack Mexico. We're a sovereign nation. And this whole idea of attacking cartels, whether it's Mexico or Venezuela, she denounced that. And, several years ago, we had a conference in Tijuana with, it was a Solidarity Workers Conference against U.S. imperialism, where Cuba trade union workers were there, Venezuelanos were there, and the Cubans and a lot of Mexican revolutionary groups were there, and we had a big delegation from California. We had FRSO there, Centro CSO was there, and we learned a lot, and we formed relationships and solidarity, So, Venezuela is not alone. It's got a lot of solidarity support from Mexico, Colombia, and of course, we live in the belly of the beast, so we have a special responsibility to, stand in solidarity with Venezuela, Palestine, and all the oppressed nations of the world to unite against U.S. imperialism, our main enemy of the peoples of the world. Thank you. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our panelists. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, like Carlos said, the main three that stick together are Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Cuba, with Cuba, being the most advanced society in terms of its relationships. It doesn't really have a capitalist class like the other two, but, the other two are still struggling to, overcome imperialism, in a way that Cuba has already defeated. So I want to say, though, that you have these left-wing governments that win elections, Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil, and other countries too, Uruguay for a while. But, those are like, social democratic left-wing governments. That's how I would describe them. And they vary depending on the country and the dynamics of the movements there. But like, the president of Chile would say he's a social democrat, but I would use Jim's word. I'd say he's mostly a rat, when the US says jump, he says how high, And a year ago with BRICS, Venezuela had applied. And there's other countries, socialist countries that, China's part of it. Vietnam's, I know they're looking at it, but the person who sank Venezuela's entry to BRICS, which would have solved a lot of their financial problems on an international level in terms of banking, right? Like, would have dramatically boosted their economy and its ability to function. It was the president of Brazil, Lula, who people consider kind of a darling. President Obama said he's the best politician ever to live, But Lula has some kind of deal with somebody that he wasn't going to let Venezuela in the door to BRICS, So people should not view BRICS as anything other than, a series of trade relationships between very differing countries with very differing societies, and not as some kind of block that's going to make imperialism decay in front of our eyes. That's not what it's doing. So, yeah. So it's, I'm going to say, keep your eyes open and pay attention to what the maneuvers are country by country versus imperialism,
Awesome. Thank you for breaking out those facts, Tom. All right. So our next question from Aif. Can one of the panelists speak to the similarities between the Iraq War and what could happen if the U.S. goes to war with Venezuela? You're pointing, but I don't know if it's the same person. I can see.
It's
okay.
Like when you do the pointing thing, Tom, it's not really referencing for anyone else. Just to let you know.
It's just funny.
It's okay. So I think there are a lot of similarities between this and the Iraq War, and that like the U.S. was targeting Iraq because again they wouldn't let the U.S. just go after their natural resources. It was in many ways also a progressive government, and so. Like many people here don't know, if you weren't around then, that like at the time, Iraq actually had the highest rate of education for women of any country in the Middle East. And they were using, for example, their oil resources to do things like, provide education for people. Was it like the most egalitarian society of all time? No, but they had some progressive things going on. So the U.S. like had the no-fly zone, that was the same. The targeted sanctions, right? That was the same. And the sanctions disproportionately hurt people who were the most vulnerable, like people under the age of 3 and people who are senior citizens. And I think that's also true for what's going on in Venezuela, because if you, for example, are really young or really old, I think you're the most vulnerable to not getting in medicines, or, for example, having the electrical outages that happen sometimes because of the U.S. Cyber attacks and things like that. And there's some other comparisons that I wanted to make, but they left my small brain. Now I'm tired. Sorry, but I do think I have been seeing a lot of similarities in terms of like also like the buildup in terms of like the way lies and propaganda and demonization. Like, so like when we were building up for the war in Iraq, they made it seem like if we dropped bombs that they would only kill Saddam Hussein, which first of all was just bizarre. Like that's not how bombs work. And they similarly, like when Trump is talking about it, he makes it sound like the bombs would only fall on Nicolas Maduro, and that's also not how bombs work. And so they make it sound like there's one guy is just so evil, and we should be able to just drop these bombs, and like no one else is going to get hurt, but they're so bad it just justifies doing anything. And so the packaging of the rhetoric, I also feel like is a real similarity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meredith. Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Iraq, it was the total major lie of weapons of mass destruction. They had Colin Powell go to the UN, right? And now we see him as a fool.
Yo,
but we have to watch out, that
I promise you, we are going to start seeing an epic amount of comparisons between Venezuela and Iraq, and they're not actually wrong about this, but that's going to mobilize so many. Listen, man, I remember being in college and protesting the Iraq War on the Boston Common. Like the Iraq War on the left was a very if you're talking about like older people. Obviously, I'm 29, but like you're talking about like older people. Like the Iraq War and the epic degree of bullshit that was the Iraq War, that's going to ring very true to a lot of people. And I really think it could be very mobilizing for a lot of progressives and liberals and Democrats to get out there and protest. Because I promise you, a lot of them were protesting 20 years ago when we were in Iraq. And so I think the left is not going to have a difficult time equating what Trump is trying to do in Venezuela with Iraq specifically, because Trump's on air talking about oil. Like he's talking about running the country. It's like, it's so strikingly similar that I don't know how they can't be successful with this type of propaganda.
the U.S.
Hey,
has used
what did I say about no
incidents,
fucking Fed posting?
Vietnam was the Gulf of
What did I
Tonkin,
say about no Fed
where they
posting?
supposedly accused the Vietnamese of attacking one of the U.S. navies. The Spanish-American War, the sinking, what was the name of that boat? The Maine? Was it the Maine? No, I don't remember, But they
Yeah.
was it the Maine? Yeah, so they use that excuse that the boat, blew up in the harbor and they attacked, took over Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Spanish colonies. So I'm just afraid that stupid ass Trump or Rubio is going to use some. People call it a false flag incident.
No, Tyler in with the
somebody's
5.
gonna start-
We got another person entering the channel membership competition. Hey, thanks Tyler for the gifted channel memberships. I really do appreciate it. Congrats to everyone who got a gifted channel membership from Tyler. You guys are gonna force me to update the channel emojis is what you're doing right now. I haven't added member emojis or changed like the member thing in like literally 5 years. And you guys are gonna make me add new channel member emojis, aren't you? It's about time for a refresh if I'm honest about it, but Yeah, we need a penguin emoji. We'll get to work on that. We'll work very hard on it.
Shooting something, they're going to say, "Oh, we got shot at. Now we got to defend ourselves." We have to watch out for that, And it's getting really hot with the way they're bombing those fishing boats, in the Caribbean. I've been to the small little islands in the Caribbean off between Colombia and Nicaragua, And anyway, so we have to, denounce any of these false flag incidents that they try to use. Yeah, back to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Carlos. Yeah, we should remember where the violence has always come from, right?
Yeah, including they used in Mexico. They used an incident on the border with Mexico to take half the territory of Mexico, right? I forgot about that.
Actually,
going way back.
Actually, actually, a helicopter emoji would not be the worst thing in the world if we're being honest about it. I think a helicopter emoji would be pretty effing great myself. Another thing I think is great, Andre, in with the $100 super chat. For real? Are you trying to make me go shopping on the internet tonight? Are you saying, Karlyn, you should buy yourself something nice tonight? And I would say, I've been buying myself a lot of nice things lately, and I need to cut down on the shopping. But you guys keep enabling me by sending me super chats. I swear to God, and I appreciate it so much. And we'll talk about that another day. Andre says, thanks, General McCarlin, for the primary source evidence skills as lessons in class, especially when they say combat illiteracy. Clearly, socialism illiteracy, not capitalism illiteracy. Yeah, exactly, because they're training them in the language of the left. Totally true. As illiterates are very important to know your far left socialist and your communist enemy. Totally true. Yeah, you're right. I need to treat myself tomorrow to a delivery meal from Olive Garden, including the included cheese grater. That might be happening. God bless Andre. God bless America. God bless capitalism. All right. Thank you guys for all the support. I really appreciate it. Let's see. How long do we have left? About 15 minutes left. Guys, we are in the home stretch of Socialism Saturday tonight. I think tonight has been a great look into how the left perceives this issue. They are incredibly consistent on this issue. They are going to position it as Trump's war for oil. They are going to position it as Trump invading another country, getting us into another Iraqi type conflict. You know what? No, I had spaghetti squash today. I actually still have my half-eaten spaghetti squash down here under my desk because I was gonna finish the rest later though, because spaghetti squash is a lot. So I didn't order Olive Garden today. I ate I was like, listen, man, I make really good spaghetti squash. Like, it's real. My spaghetti squash game is strong, and I was craving it when I woke up this morning. And it's like there are worse things I could be craving. Spaghetti squash is really healthy. So no, I didn't order Olive Garden yet, but I promise you I will order Olive Garden with the cheese grater. Thank you guys. So we got 15 minutes left, guys. Congrats if you made it to the very end. We've gained a lot of information tonight, so let's round out the class and see what else they have to say. What do I put on it? I clean out the spaghetti squash, and then I put a giant hunk of feta in the middle. The feta is key because feta is one of the greatest cheeses ever invented. It's so fucking good. So what you do is you clean out the spaghetti, you cut the spaghetti squash in half. You take half of a spaghetti squash, you clean out all the seeds and all the gucky stuff, and you make it really nice. And then you put some olive oil on it, and you put a giant hunk of feta in the middle of it. Then, in a separate bowl, you take a bunch of cherry tomatoes and you put in a metric fuck ton of garlic, and you put in a bunch of Italian seasonings, and then you put in some extra garlic salt, because we're not just putting in the minced garlic that comes in like the jar. Don't bother making your, just get the minced garlic from the store. It's fine. Put in a giant fuck off spoonful of the minced garlic, put some olive oil in it, put a whole bunch of Italian spices and cilantro and oregano and garlic powder, and just mix it all up. And then you take the tomato concoction and you put it on top of the feta. and then you take the entire thing and you put it in the oven for like an hour, 15 minutes, and then you take it out and then you mash up all the tomatoes and the garlicky goodness with the feta while you're scraping the spaghetti squash things off the side so it turns into like a nice little pasta in the thing. It's so good. It's so good. You bake it on 350 for like an hour, 15 minutes, depending on how big it is. And it's like the easiest thing that you will ever make. You can do other things in it too. I made Victor doesn't like tomatoes. So I made Victor a spinach and artichoke heart spaghetti squash where I got like really good marinated artichokes and some spinach. And I put it in there also with the hunk of feta. The hunk of feta is key. So spaghetti squash is the best. You can do anything with spaghetti squash. I'm going to write a whole book of recipes just about spaghetti squash. I'm just kidding, but maybe I should, honestly.
Yeah.
All right. So we do still have more questions. So what we'll do because of time is we'll just take one answer for each of these questions. But that way, everyone who submitted a question will get an answer. Okay. So next from Daniel Castillo from Green Bay, Wisconsin, they're asking, how should we engage with social democrats, such as in the DSA, who acquiesce to imperialist narratives about Venezuelan democracy, but also don't.
Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that? The question is, how do we relate to social democrats in the DSA? As a reminder, we are watching Revolutionary Communists. Revolutionary Communists are not the same as the DSA. The DSA are reformers. Revolutionary Communists hate reformers. They believe that reformers dilute their pure cause, essentially. And so now you've got a bunch of Revolutionary Communists, and they're going, how do we even relate to the DSA on this issue? So they're trying to like figure out, how do we work with them, but they're not of them?
So next from Daniel Castillo from Green Bay, Wisconsin, they're asking, how should we engage with social democrats, such as in the DSA, who acquiesce to imperialist narratives about Venezuelan democracy, but also don't want war?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we engage with these forces?
Good question.
All right.
Okay.
Go, Meredith.
You go.
Hugo Chavez. I mean, we do mass organizing. So if people want to join in on mass organizing, we're welcoming and friendly and good. But at the same time, when it comes to forums or, you know, one-on-one discussions or, you know, struggle in a meeting over what our orientation is, I think we take the revolutionary road. And, you know, we don't allow people to say, you know, criticize the leaders of countries that the U.S. is going to war with, you know, and especially not ones who are revolutionaries and for socialism. We defend them. We stand with them. You know, Mick Kelly likes to say Bernie Sanders' socialism stops at the border, you know. Well, we blow right over the border and disregard it. You know, we're for socialism for everybody. So
that was hilarious. Bernie Sanders says it stops at the border, but we blow right past the border and disregard it.
You know, we don't allow people to say, you know, criticize the leaders of countries that the U.S. is going to war with. You know, and especially not ones who are revolutionaries and for socialism. We defend them. We stand with them. You know, Mick Kelly likes to say Bernie Sanders' socialism stops at the border, you know. Well, we blow right over the border and disregard it, you know. We're for socialism for everybody. So that's
Sanders
the
is a
basic
Walmart
answer.
socialist.
So we have to struggle for ideas. And that's part of our work. It's not the main thing. And you probably won't do so well if you focus on the internet doing it, but we do some there too. Maybe we need to write more polemics of FRSO against DSA and against PSL. That's an idea I've been thinking about this week.
So they're active. So, okay. So you guys know how Freedom Road Socialist Organization was actually in a protest earlier with the PSL. But this guy is like, we need to write against the DSA. We need to write polemics against the DSA. We need to write polemics against the PSL. A lot of groups on the left, even though they will play nicely sometimes, they do not like the Party for Socialism and Liberation. They consider the Party for Socialism and Liberation to be paid protesters. They do not like the Party for Socialism and Liberation getting their money from China because, again, most leftist groups don't believe that China's communist. They believe China's capitalist, and so they don't, and they reject like all of that stuff. They're Marxist-Leninist groups, and so the PSL to them is kind of like, the PSL is like the redheaded stepchild of the far left in that they have a lot of money. They are highly organized. They are able to turn people out on a dime in order to protest. But and there will be other far left groups that participate in the protest. But that doesn't mean they like the PSL. And that's a really important dynamic to understand because it's just like, a lot of these leftist groups, they do not like where they get their funding. They do not like how they organize. They do not like how they operate. They aren't on the same page with them on many, many, many things. They write overt things denouncing the PSL all the time. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said that they have very different values and beliefs than the PSL.
You know, write more hit pieces on their lousy politics. So.
They're going to write hit pieces on their lousy politics.
Keep your eyes open, everyone. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll put that poison pen to work. All right. So we'll take our next question from Joseph Heller. What kind of political organizing is happening among the Venezuelan diaspora in the U.S.? And how closely is the FRSO and AWON working with them? Do we see any Venezuelans in our work? Yeah, go ahead, Meredith.
I think that most of the Venezuelan population in the United States is similar to most of the Colombian population in the United States, which is that most of the Venezuelan population that has in the United States is here because they are of an upper class background, so they could afford to leave. And a lot of people left because, for example, they didn't like the direction that the country was going. A lot of the Venezuelans that are in this country are much more politically aligned with the Cuban population that is in the United States. And so, for example, we have found progressive Venezuelans that are in this country to work with, but like, in all honesty, there have been lots of right-wing Venezuelans on this issue.
You haven't listened to they don't give a fuck if people about skin color, Kristen. And I feel like I've given you this correction multiple times and you're still not fucking listening. No, this is not a correct analogy. They don't give a fuck about skin color. Whiteness means capitalism. It is not a reference to skin color. It's a reference to the system. So no, completely incorrect.
That we have had to actually deal with counter protesting at our events.
No, not historically.
And part of it has, and it really comes down to class. That like when I, have talked with people about what was their class position back in Venezuela, I'm like, oh, that's why we're in disagreement about this, is that you are not from the group of people that would have actually benefited from these programs that Maduro or Chavez is putting in motion. And that's why we're having a disagreement about this, like, because we're a different, we have a different, class analysis of like what's going on with the revolution. And so I'm not saying obviously that every Venezuelan who lives in the United States has that class perspective, because like that's ridiculous. But I'm just saying that like I think that
they are,
whereas for example, when I used to do El Salvador work, most of the Salvadorans that I met when I was doing El Salvador work in like the 1990s, most of the Salvadorans I met actually were on the same page with me in terms of like doing El Salvador work, because they had been forced out of their country because of U.S. warfare. And like they were here in the United States and they were working class Salvadorans and they were here as like refugees from a war, and so I think it's just important to have in mind what's the class and like analysis, and like are they here as refugees, and are they here because they were forced out, or are they here because they had the means to leave, like on an airplane? There we go. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Meredith. And in Orlando, folks actually had an event to say hands off Venezuela, and there were some Venezuelans who tried to get it canceled. They tried to pressure the venue to cancel our event, and we would not let them. And we had the event. So she's 100% right. All right. So we have a question from Kathleen. Are lots of Cuban medics still in Venezuela? Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I believe so. I'd be surprised if they're not. There's a lot of exchanges that happen. I was there with a delegation of 4 or 5 Teamsters the week that COVID hit the U.S. and we were trying to go home in the morning when the airport got shut down. We were at the airport early because we knew it might happen, but we scrambled and they put us on an airplane. I asked them to put us on an airplane to Cuba, and just dumb luck, it turned out. But we flew on a plane of medical personnel, nurses, doctors, and they were very generous to let us share the flight back to Cuba. And that's how we got back. We were able to buy a flight from Cuba to Fort Lauderdale. But, COVID had hit hard, so they shut down everything. But that's a few years ago, but I assume they're still there. And there's, a lot of educational exchanges, a lot of, on multiple levels, more so than with any other country. The solidarity and the bond is strong.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tom. Yeah, the friendship's still alive. We've got 2 questions left, everyone, and then we're going to go ahead and end our program. The next question is from Kevin Heaton. Is anything happening in Boston?
Ooh, good question.
So for those who are in a national
Good
network, if they know of
question.
anything happening in Boston, folks can say so. If you are in Boston and you know of something happening, you should tell us and write to us on our website, frso.org/join, and we'll connect you. And if something's not already happening, we'll make it happen.
Boston.
I guess we'll see.
We do not have
Yeah, go ahead.
Awan affiliates in Boston, but we would love to have one, but we don't. So I don't have anything to answer. I'm sorry.
No affiliates. in
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Boston.
Meredith.
Oh,
But if you
no.
are in Boston, Kevin, which it sounds like you are, please write to us and we'll help you put on an event. All right. And then this will take us to our last question of the night from Angel in Chicago. To what extent is this threat of war against Venezuela tied to U.S. empire's new Cold War on China? Solidarity to the Bolivarian Revolution from Chicago.
Wow.
Is there any
Solidarity
relationship
to the revolution.
the U.S.'s aggression on China?
Jim Byrne.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Well, if we had a second speaker for the Cuban doctors one, I had a story about having diarrhea where I was, but I'll save that one for now. I'll take the China one, I guess. No, 100%, comrade, it is. Well, I'd say maybe 90%. It's a fair amount is clearly seeing Venezuela on its own as its own thing. I mean, from 2002, the United States already wanted to get rid of this thing, and that was clearly before China made its massive leap in industrial production and economic juggernaut that it is today. So it's always been on its radar since the revolution's infancy. But it is definitely a shift in ruling class tactics from the pivot to Asia that Obama started in his administration. Putting like 2,000 Marines in Australia is certainly something, but it's not 15,000 people and multiple airstrike, over 20 airstrikes, and closing in on 100 dead, and just the world's biggest aircraft. I do think it's a little bit kind of like Trump's use of the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan as a massive saber rattling. but it's Venezuela sort of in particular, but in general, it is that move to see that they are not, that the imperialists and the ruling capitalist class are not able to beat any of they can't carry out their agenda in the Middle East, in East Asia, right? Trump's trying to ramp up deals in South Korea to keep an eye, of course, on China over there. But Trump shifted the tactics to try and invade Venezuela in his first term, went around, sort of shopping around the idea there. But they know that, if you were to read the Southern Command's lead general's position paper in February in his presentation to Congress, China is the first country listed. It is peppered all throughout as threats to the region, U.S. national interests, and things like that. They know that over 20 countries out of the 30 in Latin America are a part of the Belt and Road Initiative. China's a major investor and trade partner. They're at least number 2, if not number 1, in tons of other Latin American countries. Not only are they building ports, railroads, infrastructure, hospitals, and other key infrastructural developments in there, they're then reciprocating by being a market for a lot of the Latin American agricultural products as well. So it's a way to flex on China in this way, but of course the United States and its ruling class knows no other way than blood and murder and terror. So it's to keep an eye on, but it's definitely hands-off solidarity. But we know the grand chessboard is to try and make a move against China.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. And with that powerful statement that the U.S. is not going to keep winning and they're meeting up with powerful opposition, whether it's anti-imperialists in Latin America or socialists all across Asia, or homegrown revolutionaries right in their own borders, their day is coming to an end.
Hey,
and I think we're going to see more and more wins over the future, hard-won wins. So with that said, thank you everyone for being on our call. If you haven't joined yet, the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, please go onto our website, frso.org.
Guys, we made it. We made it. You now know more about how the far left views the issue with Venezuela than everyone in the conservative media. If you made it through to the end of Socialism Saturday, congratulate yourself. Give yourself a good pat on the back. You are smarter for the experience. And now I want you just to keep all this in mind as we see the conservative bullshit machine spin up, because we are going to see the conservative bullshit machine spin up. But just remember, the conservative bullshit machine and the people in it don't actually listen to the left. These were the people who are out protesting in Minneapolis today. This is not some random group. We watched this group specifically because they were out protesting in Minneapolis today. They did this presentation 4 weeks ago, which means this was already an issue they were thinking about anyway. We are all thanking Cynthia and bowing down to her glory for another 5 gifted channel memberships. Thanks, Cynthia, for all the support. I think this is a really good idea. You got, listen, I can't be the only one correcting people in the world. If you hear your local talk radio talking about this, call in and correct them and to tell the information and to share the information. I think that that's a really good idea, because the more people see the actual information, the more we're going to be able to hinge back into reality. What you need to do right now is learn. You're not doing any organizing right now, Nada. You don't even know the language yet. What you need to sit your ass down, shut up, and learn. And we will help you learn. And if you want to learn, we will guide you through it and we will teach you the language of the left. But that's what you have to do right now. You have to learn. If you do not learn, you are not going to be able to organize that like them. Guys, education is at the very center of everything the left does. When I tell you to sit down and learn, I'm not telling you to do anything that they aren't doing. They do this. They have educational groups, they have programs, they have conferences, they have study groups, they have book clubs, they have entire bookstores, they have entire groups dedicated just to learning. They have weekend-long events where they go and learn. You got to learn. You cannot defeat your enemy if you don't understand them. So you got to understand them first. That is priority number 1. And if you aren't willing to do that, ain't nothing I can give you that is going to be good enough. All right, guys, per usual, I usually do not stream on Sundays because I like taking a day off too. I also lost my Saturday today with my other coverage earlier, but What we will be doing tomorrow is movie night in the supporter Discord. We do movie nights in the supporter Discord every Sunday night and every Monday night. If you are a YouTube channel member, I will be posting the link to the supporter Discord in the community or post tab tomorrow sometime, probably later in the day. But if you are a channel member, you will be able to find the link to join the Discord in the supporter in the post tab or community tab, whatever it's called. If you are a supporter on the Substack, I will be posting it out to the chat. If you are a supporter on another platform, take a look at the other platform. If you can't find it, send me a message and I will send you the link to the Discord. We do movie nights every Sunday night and every Monday night in the Discord. Sundays are at 8, Mondays are at 9. Jennifier's movie night starts tomorrow. I don't remember what we're watching, but it's some movie that Jennifier's picked out that she really likes. But movie nights are generally really great. We listen to music. We do trivia about the movies. It's a time to kind of relax and unwind. Mac B does movie nights on Monday nights, and he usually picks out some amazing cult classics. I know he's got a plan for January, and so I highly recommend people to check out movie night in the Discord if you are a channel member. Yup, I was on InfoWars when was I on InfoWars again with Harrison? December 18th. So a couple weeks ago. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen this interview, I still do have to make clips of it. This was a great interview, guys. Please make sure you check it out. If you haven't seen it already, you can find it on the Substack. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. We have another retard. Well, guess what, retard? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? You just got permanently banned in my chat. If you're not here to learn, there's no reason for you to be here. Goodbye. All right, guys, that is all I got for tonight. Thank you for everyone who sent in a super chat. Thank you to everyone who purchased YouTube channel memberships. I really appreciate all the support. I cannot do this without your support. I will be streaming again on Monday at 5 p.m. and we will get the year started in earnest. I will have to do productive streaming again. No more gossip streams. No more brain rot streams, except for Fridays. We can still do that on Fridays. But we're going to have to start being serious again, and it really sucks, and it's horrible. And oh, yeah, you want to get banned? Okay, bye. All right, guys. That's it. Take care. We'll see you soon.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here? 3 months, May 17th. And what brought you here? That's difficult to answer. eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital.
That's difficult to answer.